Part 2. Let's dig deep. Here we break down the workings of the mind and what separates those who accomplish their goals from those who don't. I'll also give you some tools to help you sharpen your mental skills. The nature of the mind: thinking, feeling, willing. The mind is a very tricky, cagey fucker. As I said, unless it's controlled and then properly engaged, it can become your worst enemy. Sit back and think about that statement for a minute, because it's deep. Is your worst enemy ever going to tell you to do something that's advantageous for your happiness and success? I think not. It'll be more like, yo, John, go ahead, smoke that crack and fuck everyone over. You only live once, homeboy, so go for yours. That's no bullshit. Please allow me to elaborate. In 1988, because of a series of events that went bad in my life, I was out on the streets again, living in burnt-out buildings in Alphabet City and strong-arm robbing some very dangerous people. Basically, I was a fucking low-life crackhead. But I wasn't your typical crackhead. Hell no. I worked out and became very efficient with all types of weapons. I also had a violent streak you definitely did not want to meet on a dark street, especially if I needed to get high. I'm not boasting. I'm just telling it like it is. I was involved in a number of life and death scenarios because of drugs, including a Colombian coke dealer who, when I was jonesing, made the mistake of getting into my car to sell me a few ounces of coke that I had no intentions of paying for. The robbery went south when it turned out he had a .45 and tried to shoot me. There were also KOS, kill on sight orders put on me by crack dealers because I'd done so many strong-armed robberies. One of those near-death experiences, this time in Miami, when a dude I was freebasing with failed to mention that the pound of coke he had was stolen from some crazy Cuban cocaine cowboys. Well, the dude splits and says it's cool to stay at his house. Thanks, motherfucker. And at 5 a.m., 2 days later, they show up with AR-15s and fire over 30 rounds into the room where I was sleeping before spraying the rest of the house. Just a few of the situations I've been in thanks to my enemy mind. As I said, I shouldn't be alive. The fact that I am means I no longer take a single day for granted or lose sight of the fact that a few people reached out when everyone else turned their back on me or kept their distance because I was so damn volatile and unpredictable. My problems stem from the fact that as major obstacles arose in my life, they opened old wounds, cutting at scar tissue left from a very abusive childhood. I tried to bury all that shit in my subconscious. I mean, consider what it does to a kid's mind to find out that the people he thought took him into their home to love him only did it for money. Their real kids lived like kings while we were abused, neglected, and starved. It recently occurred to me that for the entire 7 years we were in that foster home, those people never took a single photograph of us. We were ghost children, our entire childhood stolen. I went through life pretending like those things didn't matter, didn't get to me, but they did. They were lying in wait. Then as life's pressures increased and I was tested, I failed miserably and resorted to addiction and violence just to cope. These days, I sit back and monitor my thoughts. I've learned not to identify with them, but instead to be separate or aloof from them. I'm not my mind. If something negative arises, I know I have to shift my mind from those thoughts and attach it to something positive. That's the intelligence kicking in when you do that. The intelligence is above the mind and five senses. We should let our intelligence direct us. Hey, you know what'll happen if you do that shit, right? That's why I call bullshit on all this new age crap about emptying the mind of all the thoughts. The real deal, it can't be done. As Arjuna tells Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita while the two of them are standing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra surrounded by armies, for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it is, it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. And what did Krishna tell Arjuna to do about that? Engage the mind in the higher self. In other words, bring the mind under control by constant meditation on your higher power. Only then will there remain nothing left to agitate the mind. I think the fact this was spoken to Arjuna, a warrior facing death, is significant. Inevitably, we too are facing death. We too battle our enemy mind. Take a page from the Gita and do what Arjuna did. He fought. We too must fight to fix the mind on the higher self with the help of the intelligence. Practice this and live it daily. An uncontrolled mind can lead us right to addiction. One thing I've learned firsthand from the circles in which I was raised is that trying to ignore traumas and push them into the subconscious is a recipe for disaster. The enemy mind never forgets them. It knows exactly when to call its soldiers forth. And at that point, when you're most vulnerable, those soldiers sink their daggers into your psyche. So always get things off your chest. Talk them out with someone you love and trust. If you need it, get guidance from a professional. Never keep trauma bottled up. Don't bury pain, because as life's pressures mount, I can guarantee you with 100% certainty that your trauma will rear its ugly head. It's the nature of the mind to think about something, then feel about it, and then will it to happen. Maybe you're having a stretch of tough times. At every turn, things go south. Career, relationships, friends. You're questioning everything. You're paralyzed. At that point, some negative idea will manifest on the subtle level. That is, you'll think about it, even meditate on it. Next, you'll feel attracted or repulsed or both by it. Like you want to do it, but you don't want to do it. All emotion. You let the urge kick in. Then before you know it, you end up like me. Smoking crack, sipping on gin and juice, risking life and limb to get high, and justifying everything you do because you had a rough childhood. So take inventory. See yourself as apart from your mind and recognize those negative emotions when they appear. Then use that which is above the mind, the intelligence, to understand the consequences of the action you're contemplating. Intelligence, as I mentioned, has 3 levels. Be first-class intelligent. Be that person who can hear some wisdom and do the right thing. You can use your mind to accomplish amazing things, to get you where you want to be. For example, as long as you can differentiate between the real you and the subtle parts of your conditioned self, your mind, intelligence, and false ego. Don't let these terms confuse you. It's actually very simple. You say, my mind, my intelligence, my ego, right? Well, who is that you? Who are you? You're not the body, mind, senses, or intelligence. Who are you who possesses those faculties? Sit back, be mindful, and give that some thought. Doing these mental and intellectual exercises is an important part of the PMA process. Why? Because doing them lets you deal with the self and not just your mind. Plus, they're a way to constantly engage the mind, to keep it occupied. We all know that an idle mind is a devil's workshop. And in that workshop, you'll find fear, doubt, depression, and defeat. Those 4 never start out full blown. They creep up on you, grab hold of you little by little, and never let go. I've seen many go down that path and let the enemy mind conquer them. Then they're consumed by doubt and fear, which make them quit their goals and their dreams. Once that happens, depression can set in, and it shows up with its crew, drugs and alcohol. It's a downward spiral from there, and it all began because instead of taking a positive action to combat negative thoughts, these persons froze and did nothing. They couldn't do anything because they didn't know who they were. So they were lost to the enemy. Always remember, we're talking about what you can accomplish with a positive mental attitude. You can only do that if you learn to bridle the mind. If you're on a chariot drawn by wild, out-of-control horses, it can get downright ugly for you. And who knows where you'll end up. The mind can crush you, and it will. It's happened to me. So I'm telling you this from my own experience. It searches for the smallest crack in your armor. Ah, Johnny boy, fuck doing your workout today, and fuck writing. There's always tomorrow. The enemy mind is full of shit, so don't listen to it. Instead, make it work for you. Bridle that horse and get it to plow the fields of resistance, planting seeds of determination and hard work. Then let it help you harvest the fruits of your labor. On that note, I'll leave you with a great example of what I'm getting at from the timeless classic Bhagavad Gita as it is, by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I quote, "The chariot stands for the human body. The 5 horses which draw the chariot are the 5 sense organs. The reins stand for the mind, and the charioteer stands for the intellect. The rider here is the individual jiva, you, the soul. If the charioteer falls asleep or is not alert, then the reins which are to be controlled by the charioteer will become loose, and then the horse will go out of control. This then ends up in the destruction of the chariot and the rider." End quote. An iron will manifests through discipline. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Jim Rohn. One of the many things I love about having been on this journey over the last 35 years is the number of amazing people I've had the pleasure and good fortune to meet, especially those who've had phenomenal achievements while inspiring countless others to do the same. I've even had the privilege of becoming good friends with many of them. One such person is my good friend Rich Roll. Rich's story is worth mentioning here, since he was voted one of the world's 25 fittest dudes in men's health. His podcast is in the top 10 on iTunes, and his memoir, Finding Ultra, is a #1 bestseller. Rich has been a top finisher at the 2008 and 2009 Ultraman World Championships in Hawaii, considered by many to be one of the world's most grueling endurance races. Ultraman is a 3-day, 320-mile double Ironman distance triathlon that circumnavigates the entire Big Island. Day 1 involves a 6.2-mile ocean swim, followed immediately by a 90-mile cross-country bicycle race. Day 2 is a 170-mile cycling race. The event culminates on day 3 with a 52-mile double marathon on the searing hot lava fields of the Kona coast. In 2009, Rich returned to Ultraman twice, and despite a stacked field, took home first day honors with a blistering 2-hour, 21-minute swim victory, the 6th fastest of all time, and a 3rd fastest bike leg to win the day with a 10-minute lead. On day 2, Rich suffered a serious bike crash, but he managed to salvage the day by winning 6th place overall. Despite his injured knee and shoulder, Rich nonetheless went on to a 7-hour, 51-minute day 3 double marathon, holding on to 6th place overall. In May 2010, Rich and his ultra colleague Jason Lester accomplished an unprecedented feat of staggering endurance many thought impossible, something called the Epic 5. 5 Ironman distance triathlons on 5 islands of Hawaii in under a week. I have to say that even with all of his astonishing accomplishments, Rich is one of the humblest, most spiritually grounded, genuine dudes I know on the planet. What makes his story truly epic is what he had to overcome to be the badass dude he is today. You see, it wasn't always about fitness for Rich. After graduating from Stanford University, where he was a competitive swimmer, and then Cornell Law School, he struggled with drugs and alcohol, addictions that fucked up his life for a decade, landing him in jails, institutions, and rehab at age 31. Although he finally did get sober, Rich found himself 50 pounds overweight and the farthest thing from fit. He was eating what he called the window diet. If he could pull up to a drive-in window and order it, he ate it. Everything came to a head for him on his 40th birthday when he walked up a flight of stairs and doubled over in pain. He'd had a close call with a heart attack. That was his inciting incident, his crisis. He knew he needed to make some major changes and quick. The day after his staircase epiphany, Rich overhauled his diet, became a dedicated vegan, put on his running shoes, and jumped back into the pool. It wasn't long before ambition took hold and his quest to participate in Ultraman slowly developed. 2 years later and 50 pounds lighter and fueled by nothing but plants, Rich surprised the triathlon and ultra communities by being not only the first vegan to complete the 325-mile Uber endurance event, but by finishing among the top 10 males and becoming the 3rd fastest American ever. He had the 2nd fastest swim split, all without ever having competed in even a half Ironman distance triathlon. But what's really crazy is less than 2 years before his first Ultraman, Rich didn't even own a bike. Consider the mental toughness, focus, and discipline Rich required to do what he did. Every day beating down his mind with a stick, choosing to accomplish his tasks, and so beating addiction, bad diet, and weight issues, all while taking on the world's toughest endurance challenges. I mean, shit, I'm just an average Iron Man, and I know what it is just to finish one of those things. But 5 in 7 days? Guys like Rich know you can't be successful in anything substantial in life without willpower. And that willpower only manifests through routine discipline. I don't give a shit how smart you are. You have to stay focused and disciplined to get anywhere in this world. You have to have a plan and then execute it. If you float through life without a plan, it's only natural that you'll find yourself surrendering and caving in to the dictates of your enemy mind and thus setting yourself up for a life of misery. That's why I keep writing down my plans and putting them up on my corkboard. Then I execute again and again. Well-disciplined people are also perseverant. They have self-control and are not easily allured by distractions that draw them away from what they're trying to achieve. Discipline creates self-confidence and self-esteem, even when there are many setbacks and failures. Well-disciplined persons push on. They have clear goals. They get up early every morning prepared to fight like hell to remove obstacles on their paths. Discipline allows them to sacrifice instant, cheap gratification for meaningful long-term goals. Lack of discipline, however, works in the opposite way. It creates doubt, failure, health and relationship problems, addiction, laziness, procrastination, and an impulsive acting out. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've seen people, including myself, get caught up in a world of shit. If I analyze why we were in that position, all I have to do is look at how we each lack discipline. Discipline is dependent on courage. It takes courage to step out into the unknown and to try something new, to admit, hey bro, maybe I am doing things the wrong way. Shit, admitting this was the first step in my process. So find the courage to face the pain and difficulty in doing those new tasks. Establish fresh goals continuously and then follow through on executing them. As you begin to accumulate small victories, your self-confidence will grow and discipline will come more naturally. Yesterday, I overheard someone say that a fool with a plan is better than a genius without one. That is so true. I know some very smart people who never amounted to shit because they lacked discipline. They had no plan, so there was nothing to work toward. Worse, they had dozens of plans but never executed any of them. Never saw even one through to the end. Don't be that guy or girl. Use the formula. Have a plan. Write it down. Execute. Stay disciplined. Develop willpower and smash your goals. Vince Lombardi once said, and I quote, "Mental toughness is many things and rather difficult to explain. Its qualities are sacrifice and self-denial. Also, most importantly, it is combined with a perfectly disciplined will that refuses to give in. It's a state of mind. You could call it character in action." End quote. 5 tips for developing discipline. 1. Set goals and know what they'll achieve. 2. Have a clear strategy. 3. Identify possible obstacles. 4. Always remain willing to change behaviors. Learn new ways. 5. Stay focused. Seize opportunities. Opportunity knocks, but it's never been known to kick the damn door down. That's your job. You have to stay disciplined and go after your goals with unrelenting determination. Drive your ambition. Don't be the lazy fool who laments because a golden opportunity slipped through his hands. You're not allowed to be a slacker and then complain when things don't turn out the way you want. You'll never see determined people do that crap. They know that by staying motivated and showing up, they'll get where they need to go in life. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but they'll get there eventually. That mindset creates an aura of self-confidence and positive energy. When you feel that, you can't wait for your feet to touch the floor in the morning. You'll never roll over, hit the snooze button, scratch your ass, fart, and go back to sleep. Every night before going to bed, I list the goals I need to accomplish the next day and pin them up on my corkboard. Yeah, there's a method to my madness. If I have a visual on what I need to do, for me, it's manifested. If you have an idea, it doesn't exist until it's written down on that index card, that page in your notebook, that napkin at the dinner table. Stuck in a rut and want things to change? Then recognize openings in a moment where something or someone inspires you. Do something. Do anything to improve your life. There are talkers and doers. Define what you want and make the decision to go after it. Be a doer. A lioness spends days stalking her next meal. She has to, or her cubs will die. Imagine what you could do if you approached every goal with the same life or death determination. If you think about it, every goal is life or death. I've seen a number of people around me die, go to prison, fail, or fuck up their lives with bad choices. They failed to seize an opportunity to change. I found this posted on the internet by someone who put things off and didn't seize opportunity. And I quote, "Today I found out my wife has been cheating on me for the last 10 years. My son feels nothing for me. I realize I missed my father's funeral for nothing. I didn't complete my novel, travel the world, or help the homeless. All these things I thought I knew to be a certainty about myself when I was in my late teens and early 20s. If my younger self had met me today, I would have punched myself in the face." End quote. As long as we're breathing, we have the power to make our lives better. The universe has big plans for us as long as we don't hold anything back. We have to define what it is we want and go after it like that lioness stalking her prey. Commit to something. Focus all of your time and energy on achieving it, then watch what happens. And if it doesn't happen right away, just stay determined. Like I said in the introduction, sometimes we get tests to check our real desire. There's a Sanskrit word, drita vrata. It means single-minded determination. You must develop drita vrata and then take action. You want better health? Decide to eat better and exercise and then do it. You want a better career? Do something to make it happen and work your ass off. Want a better relationship? Keep the doors open and make yourself someone you'd want to be with. Just the other day, I saw a young, healthy dude in his mid-20s, nodded out, high on dope, sitting on the sidewalk. His sign read, "Need a miracle. Please spare some change." He didn't need a fucking miracle. What he needed is a good, swift kick in the ass. He needs to get off the drugs, get a job, and stop complaining about how life did him wrong. The choices he himself made daily are what got him to that New York City sidewalk, homeless and strung out, begging for loose change. Shit, even his dirty, hungry pit bull had to look, "Why me, man? Why couldn't I get an owner with a job and a fucking apartment?" The truth is that the little daily choices we make end up affecting our entire lives. So instead of complaining, "My life sucks. Why is the world against me? My mother didn't hug me enough. Wah, wah, wah." Do something each day to drive your life to the place you want it to be. Do you know who never complains? Disciplined people. They know nothing changes unless they make it happen. They carve out a path through choice after choice after choice. I want to tell you about a kid I know named Matt. He lived in the Salvation Army boys' home on the Bowery some years ago. Some of these kids there come from horrific family situations, as I did, and some are even worse off. One kid's father moved him to New York City from the Dominican Republic, and when he got to the city, he murdered his entire family, except for this one kid, leaving him homeless and all alone in a new country. My nephew was in that home as well because things didn't work out with his mom and her asshole boyfriend, so I got to spend a lot of time there, and I knew a lot of these kids pretty well. I even mentored some of them. Many of the kids acted real tough, trying to play the hard rock role. I recognize it. I've been there. It's a defense mechanism meant to protect them from all the pain and hurt they've endured. Not Matt. Matt was always kind and polite. It was pretty funny out in public having this 6'5" black teenager call me Uncle John. Definitely drew some looks. The Salvation Army afforded each of these kids an opportunity to excel, even go to college. Matt took advantage of whatever they offered. My nephew and the others chose to be fuck-ups. They made fun of Matt because he stayed out of trouble and worked hard in school. The fuck-ups? Well, they played the blame game. It was everyone else's fault they were in trouble. Many, including my nephew, got arrested. 3 kids even raped and murdered a woman in the neighborhood and are doing some serious time now because of it. 10 years later, my nephew is in jail for the 5th time. Most of the kids in there with him walk down that same path. But do you know who's about to graduate college and has a loving wife and his own apartment? That's right, Matt. Matt seized a golden opportunity when it was in front of him and worked his ass off to get somewhere better in his life. He made something out of nothing and broke the cycle of pain. He avoided negativity even when he was completely surrounded by it. Think about the intestinal fortitude that took for a kid in his circumstances. Talk about peer pressure. Some of those kids could be downright fucking mean, and they were, trust me. When the deck is stacked against you, you have to keep yourself in the game. You have to work so much harder than the next person in order to slay the dragon of the enemy mind and your demons of doubt. You have to stay hungry every day to improve your situation. And I'm not talking materialistically hungry. I mean, shit, I'm always giving away my possessions. I'm referring to becoming that single-minded, determined, driven fucker who finishes what he or she starts regardless of the results because he or she knows it's the only way to succeed. You know if you don't get it this time, you're going to try harder and get a better result in the future. You have to recognize opportunities and seize them if you want more out of life. The Irish writer Oscar Wilde said, and I quote, "Discontent is the first step in the progress of a man or a nation," end quote. That is pure truth. You have to be dissatisfied and want something better for yourself, your family, or your loved ones in order to move forward. When you get to that place of discontent, you'll figure out how to make it happen and develop the state of mind to succeed. Then you too will go to your corkboard and make your manifest reality. I've read dozens of articles and books about people who didn't appreciate their lives and took for granted the gift of just opening their eyes every morning and breathing. Then a crisis hits and wakes them the hell up, makes them reevaluate everything. In the 5 parts of story design, inciting incident, progressive complications, crisis, climax, and resolution, crisis sits dead center. Now, why do you think stories are designed like that? I'll tell you. It's because the crisis is what's needed to drive the character into the last act climax, where all the most focused forces of antagonism align against him or her. Only in that place will the protagonist choose to take the action to fulfill the desire that sent him or her out there in the first place. That's the resolution. In life, as in any well-written film, the moments we focus on are what's referred to as the gap between expectation and result. The energy of life is found in that gap. As Robert McKee says in his amazing book Story, and I quote, "A character takes a particular action expecting a result, and the universe does not cooperate. A gap cracks open, and the character must now take a second action to get what he or she wants. This next action puts him or her at risk," end quote. There's that word again, risk. That's life, my friends. We have a view of how we think life should go to make us happy. Then life happens, and we change our view. I mean, seriously, think about everything you wanted maybe 5, 10, or 20 years ago. I know many of my goals have changed. I stayed open to the change. You have to. Diamonds start out as coal, and after millions of years of pressure, they become jewels. Then the expert jeweler must chip away the rough cut and create a polished gem. So what do you want your story to be? Are you the character that fought through gap after gap, accepting greater and greater risk each time in order to achieve your desire? Or are you the character who plays it safe, who never risks? That character will never see the light of day in any of my scripts. Such characters are flat. We don't pay good money at the movies to see flat characters. Shit, we see enough of them in our everyday lives. You only get the object of your desire by acting, by choosing to seize opportunities when they arise, by taking risks. So I challenge you to act wholeheartedly applying what you're learning in this book, and then tell me you don't feel better about your life, that you didn't develop resilience, a tough skin, a no quitting or whining, positive mental attitude. You must understand and realize that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is a reluctance to change. That all starts with the ability to recognize, then seize opportunities. Don't make excuses. Never put shit off till tomorrow. Get it done today. List out your object or objects of desire and then crack open those fucking gaps and take action. Seize those opportunities. Become resilient. Resilience is defined by most as the ability to recover from setbacks or difficult situations, adapt to change, and keep going in the face of extreme adversity. So why is it that some are able to be resilient while others crumble under pressure? In my last book, Meat is for Pussies, which by the way isn't only about eating meat, I have a section called Mental Toughness Training Tips. In it, I enlisted the help of some badass men and women, asking them to tell me how they use the mind to push through challenges. I spoke to endurance athletes, combat experienced Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, high-level martial artists, UFC fighters, and a number of others. In talking with them, the one thing I understood was that they were able to roll with the punches, as we say. If they got knocked down, they didn't let that apparent failure define them. They got up and kept going toward their goal. That's because resilient people don't let adversity define them. They see negative setbacks as temporary. So how do we develop resilience? I would say the first thing is to remain flexible in how you deal with adversity. No two situations are ever the same, so they demand different approaches or solutions. Say, for example, you get fired. That requires that you first off analyze whether or not it was your fault. If you are at fault, make the necessary changes to your work ethic or character in order to make sure it never happens again. Next, let's look at the death of a loved one after an illness. That's something you have no control over, of course. But what you can control is how you respond to it. You can let depression set in, start drinking, hit rock bottom, or you can celebrate the person's life by setting up a foundation in his or her name in order to help others. One of my friends showed his resilience when his brother died from cancer. He ran the New York City Marathon for his brother. His brother had always wanted to do it. It was a way to keep his brother in his thoughts and actions. I'll tell you one thing, there wasn't a dry eye around when he posted the event video of himself at the finish line. There are so many things you can do to honor the person and your love for him or her and to remain resilient. Both of these examples will help you develop resilience, but resilience takes constant practice and work. We have to train the mind to see the positive, even in the negative. Heidi Reeder, PhD, author of Commit to Win, writes, and I quote, "Research shows that on average, negative events impact people 5 times as much as positive events do. Resilient people, however, keep the negative from having such a powerful impact by focusing on what's positive in the situation. For example, I made a fool of myself in front of my whole team. Or, just the upside, for example, the team got to see that I'm human, which will deepen our relationship. They are able to hold both the positive and negative equally. This kind of emotional balance allows you to move forward with more confidence and less stress." End of quote. This is something I practice during my quiet meditation and reflection time. That is, I look back at the tough situations I've had in my life and realize they were in fact a challenge to teach me resilience. All of those situations made me a stronger person. Notice that I practice this in a positive environment during meditation time and not when the shit is hitting the fan and I'm in the midst of chaos. By doing it in a positive setting, I'm developing the flexible mental muscles I need to become more resilient. There are also many lessons in terms of resilience to be learned from our failures. I actually write later in this book that we must fail in order to succeed. Why? Well, if we reflect on why we failed instead of playing the blame game or flying off the handle, we'll learn to roll with the punches, and it will force us to step up our game and develop a thicker skin. This is why I highly recommend developing a strong fitness routine and getting in shape, which can do wonders for your mental toughness and resilience. Being fit gives you a certain sense of control over challenges that may come up. One of the many things people who are out of shape tell me is that they feel like they've lost control over their bodies. That definitely affects your ability to deal with stress. Being in shape is extremely empowering, and there's much evidence to prove that. Ben Michaelis, PhD, a New York City psychologist, says, and I quote, "You can become mentally tougher by becoming physically stronger through cardiovascular exercise. The data indicating the link between physical and emotional health is airtight at this point. This is why I often suggest that people who want to build their emotional resilience begin by strengthening their endurance either through running, which I personally believe, and there is data to support me on this, is the most natural form of exercise for human beings." End quote. That's why resilient people know they have to save energy for themselves no matter what life throws at them on a daily basis. Hectic workload, kids, making their mortgage payments, family problems. Saving energy for yourself is not being self-centered. It's real talk. It goes back to the analogy of the swimmer in rough seas. You have to save yourself first by getting to the boat. Then you can help others. By saving energy for me time, no matter what that is, swimming, yoga, running, playing music, meditating, you'll put yourself in the best possible state, both mentally and physically, to deal with challenges when they arise. As you go through the different sections of this book, you'll discover that the principles are intertwined, some even dependent on each other, like fitness and resilience, diet and attitude. That's why I constantly stress how important it is to apply all the facets of the PMA effect. I mentioned writing down your goals and pinning them up on your corkboard as a way to visualize them. Do you know what else I write down? Something proven to help people become more resilient. My feelings and emotions. Dr. James Pennebaker writes in his book, Writing to Heal, and I quote, "People who engage in expressive writing report feeling happier and less negative than before writing. Similarly, reports of depressive symptoms, rumination, and general anxiety tend to drop in the weeks and months after writing about emotional upheavals." End quote. Writing about yourself isn't narcissistic. You must do it. I mean, how do you think this book got started? Every day I was writing down the way certain situations made me feel and how I dealt with them using my PMA practices. I was actually living the book in real life, but everything started with the pen, my friends. It went from my corkboard to my laptop to the printed page. I know I've drilled hard on this quality of resilience, but I have to tell you firsthand that it is the one quality that my upbringing forced me to develop, and it's paid huge dividends to this day. In closing, I'll leave you with this statement by author and motivational speaker Gene Chatsky, and I quote, "Resilience isn't a single skill. It's a variety of skills and coping mechanisms. To bounce back from bumps in the road, as well as failures, you should focus on emphasizing the positive." End quote. You must turn pro. Strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. Napoleon Hill. When I was at boot camp up at Great Lakes Naval Station, they had a motto they drilled into our head from the moment you got there until you graduated. Attention to detail. There's a reason the drill instructors make you wear your uniform a certain way. Spit shine your shoes. Make your bed precisely with hospital corners. Store your gear to perfection. Keep your area free of dust. Keep groomed to a T. March in unison, turning on a dime. Become expert at taking your weapon apart, cleaning it, and reassembling it. It's because they want you to turn pro. Why? In a wartime situation where it's life and death, the willingness to be a professional will be what you need to work as a team, defeat the enemy, and make it home to your loved ones. Mediocrity will always give you mediocre results. It's that slacker recruit who tries to cut corners, who thinks he's getting over on his instructors, that will be the one who doesn't bring enough ammo to the battlefield and puts his unit in jeopardy. The military teaches you to turn pro, work hard, and play for keeps. Over the years, I found that the things I've learned in my writing career apply to all areas of my life, in that when you make a conscious effort to always do your best, you learn to develop the skill set to improve. You don't just show up. You show up and give it all your energy and focus. Think about that for a second. What if you tackled every task in life this way? Your job, your career, your training, your spiritual practice, your relationship. Being a hack and faking the funk is a disease that affects many these days. I find that when I fight the desire to cut corners, regardless of whether I'm doing something grand or minute, I become a positive person in other areas of my life as well. When I'm at the gym, I can see who's really going for it and who's just showing up. That's why there are trainers, to push you out of your comfort zone, your lazy mindset, and to help you achieve results. Good trainers can do that. The other thing is when I see someone in a coffee shop writing a screenplay and texting, talking, checking Facebook, I'm pretty confident that's one script that's not going to make it to the screen. I'm a novice writer, but when I write, it's all social media off, phone off, shit. Even my girl knows not to interrupt me when I'm in the lab. I need to focus all of my senses, mind, and intelligence on what I'm doing. Seriously, give it a try. Turn pro. Good things take time to manifest, but if you keep going, you'll get there. It's all about your work ethic. This book is not just some hypothetical read about PMA. It's about developing it, maintaining it, then using it to kick ass every day. As Stephen Pressfield says, and I quote, "Resistance hates when we turn pro," end quote. The follow-up to his bestseller, The War of Art, his book Turning Pro, navigates the passage from amateur to a professional practice. And I quote, "You don't need to take a course or buy a product. All you have to do is change your mind. Turning pro is free, but it's not easy. When we turn pro, we give up a life that we may have become extremely comfortable with. We give up a self that we have come to identify with and to call our own. Turning pro is free, but it demands sacrifice," end quote. The fact is, I've watched people who develop the skill set to turn pro make leaps and bounds in every area of their lives. They pay attention to detail. They take notes and study. They learn the formula, apply it, and get the desired result. If they fail at something, they analyze why, then take the necessary steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. Even in the fight game, it's said that a true champion is one who comes back after a loss. He or she goes to the videotape and examines his or her mistakes, then takes action to correct them in the next training camp. Try it. Develop a new mindset. Everything you do in life, do it for real. Live with purpose. The rapper Big Daddy Kane put it perfectly. Ain't no half-stepping. That's right, there ain't. When you live that way, your entire attitude changes. You will have a light, an aura about you. People will say things to you like, "Pam, did you lose weight? Did you change your hair? Something's different." What is it? What's different? Pam turned pro. I recently heard David Goggins on Rich Roll's podcast. His is one of my favorite episodes. Goggins is a badass former Navy SEAL, the kind of SEAL other SEALs look up to. The shit he has endured to become who he is, it's incredible. My buddy is an active duty frogman. He told me some stories about Goggins that blew me the fuck away. Well, one of the things Goggins expresses in that podcast is his view that mediocrity is destroying America and that many people don't want to be told the truth, so they surround themselves with enablers. David Goggins got to where he is by confronting the darkest secrets and fears not many are willing to admit. I'm fat, I'm lazy, I'm a liar. Nowadays, everybody gets a trophy. We celebrate defeat and choose friends that never call us out on our bullshit. Instead, they tell us, "Don't worry, John, you'll get it next time. Let it go." No, I won't, unless I change my mindset, analyze, figure it out. If I don't turn pro, I'll keep coming up short time after time. I'll get into why failing is important in the next section. Developing a hack's mindset works against your turning pro. It makes you complacent. It stops your self-improvement. It destroys your PMA. And God forbid You try to call people out in a world where everyone is so easily fucking offended. I agree 100% with David on this. That crap-ass attitude is destroying the minds of people in this country and around the world. These days, when you tell someone the truth, they get the poopy pants attitude and kick rocks, as Mr. Goggins says. But in his line of work, people who don't turn pro die. It's a little different in the civilian world, of course, but death is still a possibility. Case in point. If my real friends didn't call me out on my bullshit, I'd be dead. I know plenty who have died because no one stepped up, no one intervened. I come from a much different time. Had I got butt hurt back then because people told me I was full of shit, I wouldn't be here now. I most certainly wouldn't be writing this book. I had zero self-worth coming out of my childhood, but I refused to let that be my story. If I'd let that define me, the bastards who did all that fucked up shit to me as a kid would have won. I made a lot of mistakes, some I'm still paying for, but I was never afraid to fail or so afraid of what others thought that I got paralyzed and took no action. Shit. All I ever knew was failure. It came to a point in lockup where I was so frustrated with my life that I threw up my hands and prayed. Krishna sent answers my way, but it was still up to me to make a decision to act on it. Do you know what I did? I hung around top-tier human beings doing positive things, and I studied how they lived and tackled the obstacles in their lives. Then I took action. Sure, maybe I was mimicking at first, but when I rolled up my sleeves, when I said I'm tired of mediocrity, when I tried to figure out this PMA thing by changing my mindset and turning pro, well, that's when things started to happen. It can happen for you too. I guarantee it with 100% certainty. All that's required is that you change your mindset and you turn pro. Those who fail succeed. Before success comes in any man's life, he's sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps sometimes failures. When defeat overtakes a man, the easiest and the most logical thing to do is to quit. That's exactly what the majority of men do. Napoleon Hill. Fear of failure paralyzes some people, doesn't it? The reason is they're too attached to the end result instead of enjoying the ride. They can never be present in the moment because they're caught up in the what if. What if it all goes wrong? What if this or that happens? Personally, I learned to simply enjoy the challenge and be present for it in the moment. If I were to sit and overanalyze things, I would never even get started. So many people I know fall victim to this. They worry what everyone will think if their effort doesn't bring the best result. Now, on the surface, this may seem counterintuitive. I said earlier that we have to act for the love of doing the thing and not for the result. Why should we be detached from the result? I mean, shit, you even referred to success in the damn title of your book, John. But the question we have to ask ourselves right out of the box is why I am even doing a particular thing. What's my motivation? When the only reason we're doing something is to stroke our ego because we're hoping for fame, adoration, and distinction, then we have the wrong mindset. After we finish that race, book, script, or whatever the case may be, when the numbers are all in, then it's okay to want to improve. You must. Another one of the dirty little tricks the enemy mind uses to con us is expecting perfection right out of the box. That's a mistake the amateur makes, and one that will eventually lead you to give up. I mean, sure, some of you may be able to write an Academy Award-winning screenplay in 1 month. But my guess is that the rest of us have to fail and fail and fail before we learn enough to get it right. Many times the results won't match our expectations. So learn to love the entire journey, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as well as the eventual success. In November 2014, I went to race Ironman Florida in Panama City. I got down there 4 days before the race began and the weather was great. Mid-70s, gentle breezes, a calm ocean. Then, as if the weather gods were punishing me, race day was 39 degrees, steady 40-mile-per-hour winds, high seas, and a very bad riptide. The Ironman water safety team canceled the swim Even as I stood there in my wetsuit, it was now only a bike and run. To make matters worse, I had failed to prepare and had no cold weather gear. I raced in a compression tank top and shorts. I finished a 112-mile bike ride and was freezing. As a matter of fact, I was taking the plastic trash bags along the race course and stuffing them inside of my kit to try to keep warm. As I stepped into the changing tent, T2, I thought, should I take 20 minutes to run to the hotel and grab a sweatshirt and sweatpants? I decided I'd warm up while I was running. I was dead wrong. The wind picked up and the temperature dropped. 13 miles in, I was hypothermic. My hands were blue. I was vomiting. I went into a porta potty, yes, filled with all that loveliness, to try to warm up, but it started spinning. I actually had to put both hands on the wall to stop from falling over. Then more vomiting and trembling with shivers. I got out and called it a day after the medical team suggested I do so. I was toast. Felt like shit. I was beat up both mentally and physically. I went back to the hotel, which was close to the finishing line, and had to listen as they called out the names of the people who made it. Bob Smith, you are an Iron Man. My enemy mind said, no they ain't. There was no swim. But you know what? They toughed it out and I didn't. So fuck my bullshit attitude. They deserve to get the props. The next day, I hit rock bottom. Any of you who have attempted to compete in an Ironman knows firsthand the months, the pain, the sweat, the tears that go into training for one of those races. It fucked me up. I had to pull myself out of my shit. And to do that, I needed advice from friends who had accomplished incredible things while staring down adversity. One of the first people I contacted was my boy, that decorated Navy SEAL who was in the film Act of Valor. He was deployed in the Middle East, facing life and death, and yet he took the time out to help a friend. He pulled no punches. This is what he wrote me, word for word, verbatim, and I quote, John, inherently, humans want to know what it takes to get the job done. PMA, proper preparation, etc. all play a major role. If you plant any seeds of doubt at all, it will totally start crushing your foundation. Fortify your mind. Don't allow it to happen. Don't sweat it, brother. Come back stronger next time. Use this failure as a stepping stone. End of quote. Now, when a man of that character and integrity gives you advice, you had better listen and listen good. The truth is, I've seen shit way worse than this and made it through. My life has been constant obstacles and I've overcome every single one of them. Actually, my lady said she didn't even realize Florida was such a big letdown for me because I never let on what I was going through. That's because I'm a master at concealing pain. It comes from my childhood. I never wanted to show weakness or vulnerability. When horrible things were happening to me, I never let on. No matter what, I didn't let those bastards win by showing them that they hurt me. That ability to hide pain is something I still need to work on. But as I said, I'm a work in progress. With PMA though, I know that I will get there eventually if I walk the walk. And speaking of walking the walk, after I stopped feeling sorry for myself and brooding like a chump, I got my head out of my ass and realized there's a pattern to all this. I've seen it time and time again. Failure resulting in growth. I fell back on what got me through all the hard times, focusing on small, positive things I can actively do every day to dig myself out of the mental trenches. I gave no time for the idle mind, definitely the devil's workshop. I went for a 2-mile pool swim. I hit the gym. I biked. I ran. I wrote. I always write. That's my therapy. I wrote about what I was going through, and it helped me to heal. I started smiling and feeling great. A few days later, I turned on my computer and there was an email from the Ironman website. Still slots available for Cozumel Ironman November 30th. Sign up now. Right away, the enemy mind immediately attacked. What if you fail, John? Then you'll really be the laughing stock. Remember Florida? You'll feel 10 times worse. You haven't even been training as hard. Don't do it, John! I cursed that fucker, and I hit the register now tab. I had 2 weeks until race time, and so started training like a madman. I told no one except my girl. The fact is, No one needed to know. This was my mission, and it was top secret. I needed redemption, and for that I had to dig deep. 2014 had stacked major adversity on my plate. A family tragedy, career setbacks, a torn calf muscle earlier in the year, having to pull out of Ironman Cabo and Texas. I was tested on every level conceivable. That being said, I could not and would not let 2014 go out on a sour note. Most of the time, it's not adversity that breaks us, but how we deal with it. It's our response that determines success or failure. The power of positive thinking can pull us out of anything if we're willing to invest in changing our future. If I want tomorrow to kick ass, I have to get my butt in gear today, not make resolutions to start in the future. Most New Year's resolutions don't even last a month. There's no future. There's only today. If you think like this, you'll never put anything off. So after all that happened, I knew I needed to dig deep. I had to beat my mind with a stick every day and stay focused, not wasting even a minute. I mean, shit, in 2 weeks I would be flying to a foreign country, getting in the ocean and swimming 2.4 miles, biking 112, and then running a 26.2 mile marathon. There was no room for mental demons. Not now. I wrote my training regimen on index cards, pinned them to my corkboard, and got busy. I went to Cozumel and finished setting a new PR, personal record. The truth is, the more failures we face, the more we learn from them, thereby increasing our chance at success. Experiencing failure means you pushed through, persisted, kept going. The human quality to be resilient is the capacity to quickly recover in strength and spirits after difficulty. It's mental toughness. Being resilient will allow us to be happy in the long run. I've seen this firsthand. People who are resilient are some of the happiest people I know. They never get depressed. It's a quality I've worked hard to develop over the years, and it's helped me beat down my inner demons. It's not enough to be passionate. You've got to want something so badly that you are uncomfortable when you're not getting it. Starve yourself and witness firsthand what hunger pangs are. When you feel that kind of hunger to get your shit done, you won't quit and you'll always do your best. My many failures and the hunger that resulted from them, the drive to improve, have molded me into the person I am today. I've made mistakes when things were at the highest risk possible, namely life and death or a very long prison sentence. Truth be told, I was scared straight. I wanted more out of life, so I took the necessary actions to make that happen. Don't get complacent and comfortable. That's a death sentence. You can grow or you can die. When there's something in life to fall back on, a safety net in the form of parents, or significant others, or friends, or a trust fund, then it's easy to be comfortable. I never had any of that. So I knew if I didn't get out there and work my ass off, I wasn't going to eat or have a place to live. I've stayed hungry, and that hunger drove me to push through my many failures. Failing to succeed is all part of the game. So don't sit around worrying what your critics will say. You know what I say? Fuck the critics. The world is full of them. Most are failures who themselves gave up and then turn their anger against those who try. Just keep going. If you have passion and a hunger to improve, you'll get there, even if you fail. Remember, slipping up and giving up are two different things. The critic only wins if you give up, so don't. Prove them wrong. Dig this amazing quote from Theodore Roosevelt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, because there is not effort without error and shortcomings. But who does actually strive to do the deed? Who knows the great enthusiasm, the great devotion? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement? And who at the worst, if he fails, At least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Simple living and high thinking. I'm gonna hip you to something. Having a lot of shit won't make you happy. If it did, rich people wouldn't be on all those meds for depression. The fact of the matter is that whenever we look outside of ourselves for happiness by over-consuming, we can know that we've missed the boat to happiness. Here's an analogy. What if you had a car, but cared only for its exterior, never maintaining the engine or any of its vital innards? Not too smart, right? Actually, it's downright dangerous. Well, that's where most of society is at these days. They're running around like crazy people, senses out of control, consuming everything, looking for some sort of artificial happiness. Because of it, we've become the most depressed, over-medicated, unhealthy people ever to inhabit the earth. The key to happiness is to slow down and take inventory of your internal life, not your bank account and your crap. This isn't religion I'm talking here. Religion tells you what to do and sometimes encourages blind following. That's just fanaticism. The path I follow is one of deep understanding and knowledge. Knowledge that tells you who you are and then lets you decide for yourself what to do about it. In Sanskrit, the phrase atato brahma jigyasya means now is the time to inquire about self-realization, to understand how to live, how to be happy, how to always have PMA. All that can only be attained when we're in our constitutional position. Or as I wrote in the Cro-Mag song, when we're seekers of the truth. You can't buy your way out of the blues. We're not born happy. Happiness comes through our unique set of experiences and how we choose to respond to them. I've experienced more happiness meditating and chanting at sunrise than chasing down some materialistic mirage. So many people get caught up in what I call the item syndrome, that they forget what truly makes us happy. So sure, the new iPhone X or Call of Duty game you slept outside Best Buy to get will make you feel good for a few days, but both the iPhone and the game, and your high from owning them, are temporary. The nature of anything non-permanent is it causes hankering and lamentation. You hanker for something, you get it, and after a while you're dissatisfied and off chasing the next mirage. It's called the law of diminishing returns. That first piece of cake makes you ecstatic, but by the sixth, you fucking puke. I see this big time with the youth these days. They have been so overstimulated by gadgets and materialism that they have no idea what will truly make them happy. I can tell you right now that the pharmaceutical companies are just rubbing their greedy fucking palms together, waiting to fill those prescriptions for depression meds down the road. There's an Indian story about a holy man who turned away from his spiritual path and became addicted to sex with a prostitute. He would do anything to see her, risking even his own life because she lived in a dangerous area full of murdering thieves. One day, during the rainy season, a fierce storm blew up and flooded the fields. The man was scheduled to see her that night, so despite the heavy rain, he headed out. To get to her house, he had to cross a usually shallow river. This night, though, he was swept up in the raging water and nearly drowned. He managed to grab onto what he thought was a tree log and managed to get across. When he got to the other side, however, he realized he'd been holding on to a dead body. Thieves robbed and beat him severely before he made it to a door. He showed up at her place bloodied, but still wanting to enjoy her. The prostitute, who was actually a devotee, said, "If you dedicated even one drop of the desire you have to enjoy me to your yoga practice, you'd be a self-realized soul by now." Hearing that snapped the man out of his illusion, and he thanked her and returned home, where he lived out the rest of his life on the path of self-realization. Do you see the point? We're driven like hell to acquire so much temporary nonsense and bullshit, things that mean absolutely nothing in the scope of permanence and what's real. Simple living and high thinking are a key to a fulfilling life. I mean, shit, look around at the people of America. We have overcomplicated our lives to the max. We've become so materialistic. We have everything we want but it's still never enough. Cars, smartphones, big screen, high-def TVs, cash, bling, video games, gadget after gadget. None of it will ever satisfy us because we're spiritual by nature. There will always be hankering, then lamentation, because we're not satisfied. Then we go chasing the next mirage, which again leaves us bone-dry thirsty. The most peaceful, stress-free time of my life was when I renounced everything and lived as a monk for nearly 3 years. So much superfluous bullshit clutters the lives of people in America and the other economically advanced countries around the world. And don't get it twisted. Poverty in the United States, Western Europe, Australia, and other first world countries is nothing like third world poverty. Just go to India or countries in Africa to have your eyes opened on that one. And yet, in those places, you see so many happy, smiling faces. So here's my challenge. Take the same drive, determination, and energy you have for enjoying nonsense and direct it toward positive endeavors of a higher, internal nature. I'm telling you right now, if you can even do a little of that, things will begin to turn around for you. Every journey starts with the first step. Just take a few little ones, baby steps if you will. I mean, what do you have to lose? That's why when people tell me, things just ain't happening for me, John, I sit them down and make them analyze and take inventory of what they're doing day to day. How do they spend their time? Every waking minute. Do they take the steps necessary to get what they want, or do they half-ass it? Are they hacks, or do they give their projects 100% of their undivided attention, put their hearts and souls into them, holding nothing back? You see, often, therein lies the problem. It's not about what you're giving, but what you're holding back. It's all based on desire, and you had better be all in if you honestly expect to get anywhere in this world. That I know for sure. I had no silver spoon. I had to claw my way out of the depths of hell to achieve anything I have. Many of you might be in hell now. Fight on and don't stop. People chase temporary illusions, lusting for one thing after another, only to find repeated disappointment. There's a phrase in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna and Arjuna are talking about lust for matter. Krishna tells Arjuna that this lust is dushpalena halena cha. It burns like fire and is never satisfied. If you want real satisfaction, keep your life simple and search for meaning. In his best-selling book, The Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren urges us to ask ourselves why we're here. What's our purpose? I'd like to add to those questions, where am I going? I mean, seriously, am I supposed to wander through life ignorant of my internal life, simply chasing mirages as I try to satisfy my external shell? I have to mention that there are, of course, those who feel the need to criticize people who have chosen some type of spiritual path. They say, when you die, it's over, so why bother? First, that's not true. Just talk to anyone who's had a near-death experience, where he or she stood outside the body, or people who go to the house they lived in a previous life and recognize it, or children of 2 or 3 able to play Mozart. Second, yes, I don't necessarily know what's coming after, but guess what, homie? I'm happy in the here and now. So while you're content to believe we're nothing but a collection of molecules, I have a daily practice that brings me happiness and PMA. It seems most of the ones denying the existence of a higher power are pretty miserable sons of bitches. We get a human body after many evolutionary births in this world. We get it to facilitate self-realization. The ability to see ourselves in truth is what separates us from the animals that simply seek sense satisfaction. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Think about it. It's what animals do with their days. But if you think a little further, animals have souls too. They're not machines. Look in your dog's eyes and tell me he has no soul. So if your only shot in life was to be born a dog, or worse, a dog in India with mange, don't you think you got cheated? Only in the human form of life do we seek out higher knowledge of a metaphysical nature. This is because there is a code stamped into our soul's DNA, where our inherent nature is called Ananda and bliss. It's right next to another code called Sat, truth. Sat also means eternal. We're wired to want a happiness that doesn't die. By contact with the material body, we suffer. The more we identify ourselves with the body and other forms of matter, and so try to enjoy all that temporary stuff, the more we'll come up short. Renunciation and sadhana, spiritual practice, have their rewards. There are amazing levels of happiness and bliss to be found in the realm of spirit. Otherwise, how could monks or those living lives of austerity carry on? It's not artificial. Faith takes you a lot of the way, but you also need rasa, a life filled with flavor. Our nature is to enjoy. Living artificially can only take you so far. Even me, when I was a monk, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life without question. The problem came when I eased up on my daily practice. Then the enemy mind attacked. The trick is, don't get caught up with and attached to all this stuff. Money can't buy you love, and it certainly can't get you a ticket out of this material world. So put down the remote, Xbox control, cell phone, and credit card, and go out and experience the world. There are so many things you could be doing to enrich your life that doesn't involve buying shit. I read a story a while back about a guy who made millions in the tech industry. He was always stressed out and miserable, which eventually helped him develop a disease that almost killed him. While he was in the hospital, he talked to a man in the next bed who was dying of cancer. He was amazed at how happy this man was. He asked, "How can you be so happy when you're about to die?" The man replied, "I am not about to die. I'm just giving up my bodily dress. I'll change my clothes the way we each change our clothes every day. We're all dying all the time. Where is your 2-year-old body or your 20-year-old body? Everyone born will eventually be faced with what I'm facing, whether it comes in the form of cancer, old age, or an accident. Death is guaranteed. For one who was born, death is certain. What's not certain is whether or not we'll be happy while we're alive. Besides, the truth is, even if I had your millions, these doctors could do nothing for me. I'm content with my situation and have faced it. I am not afraid because all I have to lose is this temporary external shell of a body." End quote. That man left his body fearlessly because he'd lived a simple life and thought highly and deeply. Yoga, meditation, higher thought, he practiced all this daily. That brought him realizations, not speculations. Being an armchair philosopher doesn't get you there. You have to put in the work, take action, and live the life if you want the reward. Open that jar of maple syrup and taste the sweetness it contains. The tech dude listening to this man's story survived and vowed to change. When he got out of the hospital, he gave away his stuff, the cars, houses. He donated most of his wealth to charity. He then moved into a studio apartment, took up yoga and meditation, and stopped eating poisonous foods. He even started running marathons. He lived life to the fullest and was blissed out because of it. He told the reporters he would never go back to the way he was before. The man who passed away was in fact a messenger who arrived at the right moment in this dude's life. He told him to stop stressing over what will be and live life in the here and now. The illusion that more money will solve your issues and make you happy down the road is just that, an illusion. It's like getting a post-dated check you can't cash. It will never bring happiness. If life's about a set of experiences, go get those experiences. Keep your life simple. Keep it highly motivated by switching your thought process to a higher frequency, a higher level of consciousness. I can only tell you what's worked for me as well as others I know. We've all been in our mental and physical hells. That's the nature of this material world. It's designed to be hell so that we'll want to get out. My guru Srila Prabhupada compared the world to a toilet. Not a place you want to linger, have a snack, plan out your life. No, you do your business and you get the hell out. The truth is, most suffering and fear we experience is due only to ignorance. It can and will change if you make a plan to live more spiritually, keep it simple, and put in the work day after day. And let's be clear on a very important point here. Just because you live simply doesn't mean you shouldn't try and become successful and make money. Money is energy, and you need it for almost anything in this world. It's an energy you can use for good or for bad. With the albeit limited amount of money I've made, I've been able to do some amazing things. I've fed the homeless, opened a center that taught free bhakti yoga classes, and helped many in need. I know I have to continue to do the work because I want to continue my philanthropic endeavors, to use my income to help others. I put those goals on my corkboard too, by the way. A man recently asked me what the catalyst was for my change. I replied that somehow I had enough sense to know that acquiring material shit wasn't going to make me happy. But I was frustrated and suffering like hell, mentally. I knew I had to change or die or be in prison for the rest of my life because my anger and drug use was way out of control. I remember not even knowing how to pray or who to pray to, but I prayed anyway. I asked for the roadmap out of my suffering, and it came in the form of gyan, knowledge, which I then applied. Guess what happened? Change. I'd been beaten up by the material energy long enough. I wanted sweet things to come into my life. So I stopped speculating on what could be and cracked open that jar of maple syrup. I took action. I lived a simple life. I meditated and worked my ass off. Change can come for anyone who wants it. It doesn't come cheap, but the rewards are immeasurable. I'm no different from any of you. You'll get there too if you're willing to walk the walk. Give it a try, and I can guarantee you amazing things will come to your life. When they do, don't forget to pay it forward and to help others. That's what the PMA Effect is all about. What goes around comes around. Why is it that we admire philanthropists so much? Those who give to others out of the goodness of their hearts, expecting nothing in return. What have they figured out that the rest of the world needs to catch up on? I'll tell you, they know that by helping others, they become happy. Aesop wrote, "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." End of quote. It's not that we have to open a hospital or donate millions of dollars to help people. We can start simply from where we're at, from a place where we have facility. That could even be something as small as offering kind words of encouragement to someone going through hard times. We should always be happy when others do well. Shit, I am. When I see my friends get a movie deal, book deal, finish an album, complete some amazing physical challenge, lose 50 pounds, finish a race, start to eat plant-based, quit smoking, win an MMA fight or whatever, it brings a smile to my face. I'm bringing this up for a specific purpose. In my years on this planet, I've noticed that those who help and encourage others are some of the happiest people I've ever met. They exude PMA. Matter of fact, it's dripping out of every cell in their body. Ever since I learned about the world of cause and effect, karma, I've made a conscious effort to help others in an attempt to fix my own screwed up life and to change my negative attitude to a positive one. I've discovered that when I put good works out into the world, I become much happier. Then there's the dark side of humanity. Those who go out of their way to harm others. They take joy in seeing others in pain. Sometimes they even try to add fuel to the fire by causing them more pain. These people are envious and critical of anything someone else earned by hard work. They are fault finders. Like flies, they're constantly looking for piles of shit. I've personally known and still know some of these types, and I make a conscious effort to get far the hell away from them and keep it that way. Before reading Don Ruiz's The Four Agreements, when people talked crap or spread lies, I straight up wanted to beat the shit out of them. Then I got agreements. One of the agreements is, don't take things personally. Understand that a person in hellish consciousness and a negative world can never have anything good to say or any kind act to perform. Such persons live only to harm others and ultimately themselves through their choices. Unlike those who have PMA, envy, anger, and negativity are found in every cell of their body. Those people can never be happy. Compassion and caring are qualities that enliven the soul because they are our essence. But envy is the worst quality imaginable because it takes people to very dark places, places consumed by hate. Envy is the root of all evil. Envious people always try to harm others. Thus the expression, an envious snake. Did you know that cobras have been known to climb trees just before they die so they can drop on someone or something and get in that last deadly bite? Envious people are no different with their snake-like mentalities. Causing someone mental or emotional stress is in many ways worse than punching them in the face. The pain of a punch only lasts a day or two. Emotional pain can last for years. I'm always looking for ways to help others out of painful situations. To see others suffering and unhappy makes me unhappy. Being instrumental in helping them turn things around fulfills a deep need in me because I've been where they're at and I can relate. You too should practice this compassion code. And you don't just get bad karma for hurting other people. You also get it for the cruelty in your diet. You need to ask yourself at every meal, what effect am I having on other living beings by eating this? I mean, think about what an animal has to go through to make you that hamburger, pork chop, chicken wing, slice of bacon, or steak. A life of hellish confinement and torture, followed by being violently murdered. Do you really want to consume that energy? Why do you think they transport animals at night and there are no guided tours of the slaughterhouses? Believe me, they know if people got to see what's being done to the animals that feed them, if they witnessed the animal holocaust, they'd go veg in a second. I suggest you don't stick your head in the sand anymore about that. Live consciously. Go visit a CAFO, concentrated animal feeding operation, where upwards of 100,000 animals are crammed together and fattened for slaughter. If the smell doesn't make you puke and turn you off, take another step further and go into a slaughterhouse. Unless you're a sick, twisted fucker, I can guarantee you'll be deeply affected. On the subway recently, I saw someone take a few bites out of a hamburger and then just toss it. For some reason, it got to me that day. Now, I'm not one to scream at people who are wearing furs or even go out and protest about animal rights for that matter, but I felt compelled to say something to this girl. I broke it down for her, informing her what that animal had endured throughout its life to become that Big Mac. I kept my cool, though, dropping logic and science. And who knows if it got through to her or not. I like to think that she did check out the documentary films and websites I suggested. When we harm others, whether humans, animals, birds, or fish, you had better believe there is karma involved. Being nonviolent doesn't mean you sit back, become a pacifist, and let people walk all over you and your loved ones. Oh, hell no. Real warriors are strong enough to only use force when necessary. Actually, a very high-level black belt told me that just the other day. He does everything he can to avoid physical confrontation. But if there's no other solution, he must use force. He has no problem with it. In closing, I'll tell you one thing I am certain of because I lived it. PMA doesn't come by accident, by chance. It grows out of the actions we perform every single day. Living a life of ahimsa, non-violence toward every living being, especially those we've wrongly considered food, will fast-track your PMA. Trust me, practicing ahimsa won't make you weak. It will make you strong. Very strong, in fact. So put some good karma in that bank account, get out there, and go kick some ass. Act like a child. A great man never ignores the simplicity of a child. Chinese proverb. First off, don't get it twisted here. I don't mean childish, like someone who always has to get his way, complaining, pouting, stomping feet to get attention. A big baby. Those pain-in-the-ass people annoy the living hell out of me. What I'm referring to is staying open to dream of life's amazing possibilities. If you ask children what they want to be when they grow up, they'll tell you anything from an astronaut to a football player to the president. Nothing's off the table or feels unattainable to them. Do you know what you'll never hear a kid say? I'm just going to give up on my dreams, live a boring existence, and drag my ass to a dead-end job I hate, then drink away my sorrows. As life goes on, we adults tend to become safely hidden in our comfort zones. We become conditioned, set limited ways of doing things, and we lose our flexibility and the ability to try new paths. We think we already have it figured out and that no one can tell us anything. We tend to stagnate in all aspects of our lives, career, relationships, or spiritual advancement. Our conditioning programs us to believe the self-defeating statements we have created for ourselves. I'm not talented enough. I'm not creative enough. I'm not young enough, not gifted, smart, pretty, skinny, or handsome enough. These are all lies. And to change our path, We must change our perspective. Have you ever watched kids play? They totally commit to what they're doing. They stay in the moment. Unlike adults, they aren't thinking about later, tonight, tomorrow, or next week. They use all of their imagination to get lost in their world of make-believe for hours on end. And they want to make their dreams a reality. Children take risks. There's no fear of failure. Because of that, self-condemnation eludes them. They act without worrying about the results or who's watching or judging them. Kids usually take their time. They don't care that society says they have to act a certain way. They aren't afraid to break the rules in order to create. They stay unpredictable. Children are designed to be great learners. It's dialed into their DNA to be constantly gaining new knowledge and insights. And most will accept new ways of doing things. They ask questions free from embarrassment. When I hit 50, but continued playing music, touring, writing books, films, and racing Ironman triathlons, some people my age criticize me. How long are you going to keep living in some fantasy, John? When are you going to get serious about life? Actually, I'm dead fucking serious about life. That's why I try to live it to the fullest every day, to give it my all, to be all in and go for it, to see every endeavor through to the end, to dream like a kid, knowing full well that all my hard work will pay off. Actually, that type of criticism comes from those who have themselves given up, who've become content to live out their quiet lives of desperation. It's why they feel the need to try to convince everyone around them to do the same. Point blank, those people suck. What they spew is poisonous to your PMA and your personal growth. Don't ever accept what they say as fact. A real friend will always encourage you to go for your dreams, help you get into the mindset that you could do anything and everything. Real friends never try to sow seeds of doubt. You must reject those who do. When you stop questioning, dreaming, and learning like children, it's a type of soul death. You become a cog in the machine, satisfied simply to exist. Imagine if all the great writers, poets, actors, philosophers, athletes, musicians, philanthropists, and so many others listened to people who told them to quit. Risk takers are the ones who get shit done. And most risk takers I know have the same mentality in their work as children do in their play. Business speaker and best-selling author Jack Ulrich writes, and I quote, "When people think the way children do, they begin to see things from a new perspective. They learn to step back and view problems, people, and things from a completely different point of view." For the most part, children are happy and don't get depressed. Or if they do, they don't tend to stay depressed for long. Shit, even when I was being abused on a daily basis in that foster home, I still found ways to smile and be happy. I created other worlds. I played. I dreamed and fantasized about being a musician. As a result, I became resilient, determined, and gained the strength to get me through things. Oh yeah, and I became a musician who tours to this day. Only as children grow to adulthood do negative traits manifest and take over. It's because we believed the doubters and stopped listening to our inner child. We caved in and gave up on dreams and goals. This section is an important one in terms of developing PMA and happiness. Stay childlike and approach everything you do with the eyes of a child. Here I am about to turn 57, and I just wrote a new album, 2 new books, a feature film, a TV series, and I'm also still touring and competing in Ironman triathlons. Do I ever sit there thinking, what if the movie never gets made? What if my album isn't received well? What if I don't finish the race? Hell no. I love the act. And like a child, I'm free from doubt. I never listened to those who were spreading the seeds of poison. I always believe that anything and everything is possible if I'm willing to remain creative, work my ass off, and think outside the box. You must think like this as well. It's your calling in life. You are meant for greatness. You have unlimited potential and the power to create amazing things, to live life to the utmost, and to love unlimitedly. That's real talk. If you don't believe what I'm saying here, Go and eavesdrop on some kids' conversation while they're playing. I guarantee you'll learn a whole lot from it. As an exercise, try something new. Don't worry about the results. Just act. Learn to play an instrument. Try yoga or meditation. Take a creative writing course. Learn a new language. Get involved with a theater company. Start a band for fun with friends. Join a recreational sports league or take up a hobby. Grow an organic vegetable garden. What it is doesn't matter. Each of these will exercise your mind. As a result, you'll grow. In all that you do, just remember to do it with the simplicity and carefree attitude of a child. Find that higher power. My intention in this section is not to preach or convince you to follow one path over another, but to simply present certain undeniable truths and then let you make your way through them. That's what I've done in my life. It has taken decades to get where I'm at, and I still have a long way to go. What I've learned and accepted as my truth has come from my own set of unique experiences. That being said, how could I ever tell someone else what to believe? People who do that are the biggest fools, and to follow blindly is ludicrous. That's why I believe that the major religions have failed people. People are more dissatisfied with organized religion than ever, and not just because of hypocrisy amongst some of the leaders either. The disappointment comes because most large religious groups have to be so rule-based that they tend to attract fanatic or fundamentalist followers as their lowest common denominator. Fundamentalists, by definition, have little or no philosophical understanding about why their religion does what it does. And for them, the enemy is not the uncontrolled mind, but those who disagree with their idea of religion. If you were to ask them why they do certain things, they don't say, because I meditated on it for years and dug to the core of my existence searching for answers. This is what I came up with. Instead, they say they're following their priest or pastor or guru from India. Spiritual practice without philosophy is fanaticism, and philosophy without devotion is mental concoction and speculation. You need both, devotion and philosophy. What I can tell you for sure, if you are truly on a search for truth, you will find it. You will discover your path to your higher power. Perhaps your higher power is the belief that you should serve others. I have the utmost respect for those who give aid to others. It's our nature to serve. Just as you can't separate heat and light from fire, you can't separate the desire to be of service from the living entity. As Bob Dylan says, you gotta serve somebody. Whether you serve God, country, your husband or wife, your kids, your dog, or your senses. One way or other, you serve. We are all energy. That energy is of a divine nature. We belong to a great collective that joins all life together. We are stronger together. One stick alone can be snapped, and alone, so can we. But when we link to the collective consciousness, we're like a bundle of sticks that cannot be broken. You see this even in the mundane sense, with people joining this or that group so they can hang around with people who have common interests. Why shouldn't we do the same on the road to PMA and higher consciousness? Remember, we're meant for teamwork. You could be part of the darkness or part of the light, part of the problem or part of the solution. We don't come into this world with any labels attached. Labels get assigned, and we assign them to others as we become socially conditioned. Most religions teach, my God is better than your God. Most societies teach, my race is better than your race. Sexism, men are superior to women. All of that is ignorance. It's not of a higher nature, but a lower frequency. Because in truth, our essence is not black or white, man or woman, or of any particular religion. Not Christian, Hindu, Muslim, or Jew. These are all temporary labels. What we are is of a divine spiritual nature. That truth is called Sanatan Dharma, or universal eternal truth. Our only occupation is service, and that service has to be unconditional, unmotivated, uninterrupted, and loving. The real love of the soul isn't motivated by expectations of what we're going to get out of it. If you stand in front of a very dusty mirror you won't be able to see your image reflected. But as soon as you clear away the dust, you'll see who you are. It's the same on the path of truth. Working on ourselves clears the dust, and gradually we see more and more of ourselves reflected in that mirror. You'll see all people as brothers and sisters, animals as friends we should protect, and Mother Earth, the mother we should respect and care for. Now, look around this age of Kali, of quarrel and hypocrisy. Everything is ass backwards. We fight over anything, kill hundreds of billions of animals every year, and destroy the hell out of the planet. This cannot continue if we ever expect to live in peace. I can only refer to what I know as my truth. When I searched, meditated, and worked hard, I found my higher power. I wasn't following blindly, as many who don't believe in a higher power suggest. Rather, it was through working on myself enough that I began to get deeper insights and a more philosophical understanding of what was going on around me. We all want to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves, but if we disconnect from the power source, we'll eventually run out of power. It doesn't matter what you call your higher power. You must reach outside yourself. And believe me, I've heard all the arguments. You're accepting something you can't see, and all the rest of them. You can't see cell phone or satellite TV signals, but you have faith that when you turn on your iPhone or TV, you'll be able to talk, text, or watch your program. People have faith in all kinds of things. They exit their houses with the faith that they'll return safely to their families. Yet, when you say you have faith in a higher power, there are some who will immediately criticize or disparage. So yes, through our mundane vision, we may not be able to see everything that's there. Our physical senses are imperfect. But if we develop spiritual vision, we'll know how to find our higher power. We'll discover higher frequencies, different planes of existence beyond this mundane world of matter and illusion. Finding that higher power should be the ultimate goal of everyone who's reading this book. PMA is important and an integral part of the process, but it's not the end all. It's simply a tool you'll need in your arsenal as you travel towards self-awareness, enlightenment, and true happiness. Shh, it's a secret. Okay, I'm calling out all these snake oil salesmen and women making millions off their new age crap because the secret's out. And that is, it ain't no secret. So don't buy into their bullshit. You have to take charge of your own life. You create your destiny by your daily actions. Now, I'm not saying you don't need teachers. I've already discussed the need of mentors. What I am saying is that when there's a hefty price tag accompanying knowledge of how to work on yourself, look the fuck out. My spiritual teacher, my guru, Srila Prabhupada, gave his knowledge away for free. He never charged one thin dime. Morning classes were also followed by a sumptuous breakfast. That's right, all free of charge. And he would comment, just see, we are giving for free, but yet they go to cheaters who charge large amounts of money for some secret mantra. Yoga has become very fashionable as of late, as has meditation and having a guru. Why? Is it that people have a burning desire, a passion, that drives them every day to expand their consciousness and to free themselves from the clutches of Maya? Or is it because the guru's selling a path that requires little work? There are no shortcuts to nirvana, my friends. Anyone who tells you that you don't have to perform some austerity to get there, that you can go out and do whatever you want, drink, have unrestricted sex with whomever the hell you like, and eat all kinds of abominable, violence-produced foods just as long as you stand on your head and bend like a pretzel while chanting some hodgepodge bullshit mantra, is a fucking cheater. How can a person who him or herself is a servant of the senses, who is bound by the chains of his or her own material desires and illusions, free you? I've been around the yoga and New Age people for some 38 years plus now. And in that time, I've seen some of the biggest charlatans on the planet. Charlatans can be found in all organized religions as well. So many so-called enlightened ones have done the most degraded shit. Some of the biggest TV evangelists have proven to be the most materialistic, living in mansions, flying private jets, driving Rolls Royces, having sex with children or whomever they wanted, stashing millions in offshore accounts, and all while instructing their followers to renounce the things of this world, and give them to them, of course, and to live simple, humble lives. Maybe those con artists need to read this, and I quote, "In the minds of those who are attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place." End quote. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text 44. To exploit and take advantage of people who are at the end of their rope and looking for a way out of hell is the lowest thing you can do. Such exploiters are called sahajas. That's a Sanskrit word that means those who take things cheaply. In other words, they tell people they can do whatever they want and still reach some kind of blissed out state, just as long as they read the sahaja's books, chant his or her expensive mantras, and cough up hard-earned loot so the sahaja can enjoy it. I recently saw some creepy dude who was obviously trying to score on some yoga chicks put up a flyer at a local vegan restaurant. It had a picture of him in full lotus, meditating and wearing all the gear. The poster was advertising his new yoga system. Seems there's one of those every other day. His was called Sahaja Yoga. I said to him, "Dude, do you even know what the fuck Sahaja means?" Turns out he did not. After I schooled him and took his flyer down, handing it back to him, I said, "Your scam needs a rebrand. Go do some research, homie." He looked at me stunned, then exited. Let me hip you to some real truth. Spiritual advancement or any type of work on oneself, be it meditation, yoga, or developing PMA, requires many things of you. But it takes two things in particular: adherence to the system's principles and discipline. Now, be that as it may, the minute you tell people this, they tell you to fuck off, claiming Swami such and such says I can do whatever the hell I want. Even this book will undoubtedly have readers who will not want to do the work. But there will be others who will let it resonate. They'll continue searching out other supporting information, will apply its principles, and stay disciplined. Those who do will make leaps and bounds in their personal growth. And let me reassure you, I didn't come up with what's contained in these pages from my imagination. I simply gathered the knowledge the way a mailman gathers the mail from the post office and then delivers it. Although I've added a few more expletives in my presentation than, say, a 14th century Indian monk would have. But hey, time is circumstance, and that's what the fuck I do. But all jokes aside, in no way, shape, or form do I claim to be any kind of leader, teacher, or guru. I'm just trying to be the best follower of the path I've chosen and to pay forward the gifts I've received by passing on the knowledge to you unchanged. Even if my book helps only one person change his or her life for the better, it's done its job, and all my years of research and writing will have paid off. Know for sure that when we feel deep resistance to some endeavor, it usually indicates a deep need for that particular thing. If you find yourself resisting the work on yourself, don't sweat it. It's natural. We've been conditioned by bad habits for so many years that we can't change overnight. Just keep pushing through. You'll hit a clearing eventually. Just don't be the shooting star that makes a big razzle-dazzle then burns out. Instead, be like the moon, constantly effulgent. There will be slip-ups, no doubt, but slipping up and giving up are two completely different things. Remember, we must fail in order to succeed, but we don't quit. Quitting things, even little things, will develop in us a quitter's mentality. I recently had dinner with friend and tattoo artist Chris Carver from Miami Inc. He told me that his mom and dad, both of whom are over 70, went to a meditation seminar in Korea with monks. It was his mother's idea, of course. because his father is your typical old school skeptic. When his father asked the monk why he should meditate, the monk replied, "Try it for a month and you will see." Well, he did. And guess what? He still meditates to this day. The monk knew Chris's dad had to dive in and take action if he wanted to experience things in his life, like meditation. The monk knew that once Chris's father took action, he would be hooked. In the last week, I've had over a dozen people hit me up online and ask if I could give them a meditation exercise. I think the upsurge is because more and more people are looking for a better life and a better state of mind in a world that seems to be spinning towards some real negative shit. It's also due to the medical evidence published lately proving that meditation is good for you. Whatever the case, I think it's great that so many people are starting to wake up and focus on their insides. A free meditation exercise. That's right, free. Now, as for me personally, mostly what I do is mantra meditation. I chant Hare Krishna on japa beads. I find chanting engages my mind and senses. My tongue vibrates a sacred sound, and my ears hear it. Because I offer and burn incense to help create a spiritual mood, my sense of smell is also engaged. My eyes look at a beautiful picture of Krishna while I chant, and my sense of touch is engaged because I'm moving beads through my fingers as I chant each mantra. The result is that as I chant, my mind fills with beautiful spiritual images and thoughts. The Bhagavad Gita says that the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. I find that chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare works for me, helping me as I sit on my meditation cushion to focus. I also practice controlling my breath, which helps control the mind. Try both as well. So here's how to do it. Sit on a cushion, or if you're on a break at work, a chair. Concentrate on your breaths. Prana is the energy contained in it. Let negative thoughts and emotions go. Stay in the present. Every time the mind strays, bring it back under the control of the higher self. Remember, Aham Brahmasmi. I am not the body, not the mind, but an eternal self full of bliss and free from anxiety, stress, and disease. Send healing pranic energy from your toes to your head and feel your breath become energized. Stay focused on your breath and watch the stress be released. Do this for 5 minutes or longer if you can. Just stay mindful throughout. People have been meditating for millions of years. The great sages, gurus, and philosophers all did it because it works. There was never a day when they didn't have that PMA. You can too, if you make meditation part of your daily regimen. What do you mean happiness is a choice? Exactly that. Happiness isn't a birthright. Happiness grows over the years through our life experiences, daily practices, our trials, tribulations, and the realizations that come from all that. It's the one thing we search for, but unfortunately it eludes most of us. It can't be bought or gotten by collecting more shit. You can't get it from a magic pill, potion, gypsy spell, book, cult, or diet. Finding happiness requires a ton of fucking hard work. It's said that the face is the index of the mind. In other words, you can see where people's heads are at because it's written all over their faces. Do a little experiment the next time you're on the subway, bus, or just walking down the street. Study people's faces. Is anyone really happy? Are they smiling? Do you sense they've found inner peace? For 9 out of 10 people, the answer is no. Most people are unhappy. You could see it. They're just trying to get through another day. They eat their shitty breakfasts and drag their asses out the door to jobs they hate. They never exercise, meditate, or try to solve their issues. They've accepted the suck as reality. The sad fact is, They don't even realize there's another way. They have no sadhana, no practice, and even though they're miserable, many of them ridicule those who maintain their daily devotions or practices as brainwashed. But who's really brainwashed? The ones who are trying to find a better way of life, or the individuals who've bought into the lies on billboards, TV, radio, and the internet, all of which claim they can make you happy? And what is that temporary, limited happiness of impermanent sense gratification you're buying into? In Sanskrit, puna punas sarvita charvanam, chewing the chewed. It's like taking some sugar cane after it's had all the juice pressed out of it and sucking on the dry straw. There's no taste left in it that can possibly satisfy you. The fact of the matter is that human beings are meant for much more than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Those things are all that animals do. Humans are afforded the opportunity to expand their consciousness. And when we don't take up that calling, the only possible outcome will be unhappiness, stress, anger, and a never-ending cycle of shitty, bad days. Now, that's not to say I don't have those kind of days here and there too. Sometimes it strikes, say in the morning, when maybe I let some rude asshole who almost runs me over on my bike get under my skin. Or perhaps a series of events goes down midday where, if I don't catch myself, reflect and take a deep breath, I would want to choke the living shit out of someone. We've all been in one mental hell or another. But what happens if you don't stomp out those negative vibes as soon as they arise is that they continue rising. And not only in the short term. It could be days, weeks, months, even years of pent-up aggro that can eventually lead to your becoming one unhappy son of a bitch or having a total meltdown, believing the answer can now only be found in your doctor's prescription pad. The fact is, we all go through peaks and valleys in terms of mood. That's called life. I don't know about you, but I think people who never have an off day are either batshit crazy or on 5 different types of antidepressants. We have to fight through bad moments because they are part of the process. Meds are only a temporary fix to a much deeper problem. Buddhism teaches that only when we go beyond duality, hot, cold, happy, sad, summer, winter, friend, enemy, do we reach the enlightened state and enter nirvana. Or as the Vedas teach, Vaikuntha, the place free from anxiety. If you want to find lasting happiness, stay focused on your spiritual path and find out who you are. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about that glazed over shit I call hippiness that you get from some whacked out dude on mushrooms, ayahuasca, or LSD. That's still artificial and temporary. I'm talking about real deal, permanent happiness, which, let's be honest, is what we all want. That's the reason we get our tired ass out of bed in the morning in the first place. That constant hope that maybe today is the day it happens. And then we're beat up by the enemy mind in a 12-round slugfest. Again. All that can and will change if you work on yourself and follow your process. There will always be stressful situations. What determines your overall mood is how much you let them affect you. Remember, true character is only revealed under pressure, and the greater the pressure, the greater the revelation. I've seen many a fake-ass pseudo-spiritualist yogi fold like a cheap suit the minute the universe tightened the screws on him. Then it's like, namaste, om, fuck you, asshole! Remember, tests are a must. And I repeat this constantly throughout this book because we have to realize that tests are part of the journey. So have patience and be forward-looking. All negative energy will pass, but it can snowball into a shitstorm if you let it. Don't. Take a deep breath and work through it. Best-selling author Laurie Deshane writes, and I quote, "You don't have to be positive all the time. It's perfectly okay to feel sad, angry, annoyed, frustrated, scared, or anxious. Having feelings doesn't make you a negative person. It makes you human. End quote. The circles I grew up in on the streets of New York City put me around some pretty crazy and dangerous people. These were the types of dudes who, if they got set off, could easily kill people. As a matter of fact, some did, and they paid a heavy price for it. Most of the homeboys I ran the streets with in the mid-70s and early 80s are either dead, serving life in prison, or strung out on drugs. I didn't want that for myself, so I needed to change. That started with taking action and watching how I responded to tests when they arose. In other words, I had to take a lot of internal inventory. The people I'm talking about above are extreme cases, of course, and hopefully most of you aren't capable of that same kind of violence. But hey, you never know. One day you're sitting in rush hour traffic, an asshole cuts you off and flips you the bird, cursing your firstborn with every four-letter expletive under the sun. You might just get out of that car and go postal. That is, unless you can flip that energy and see that unhappy negative fuckers live for negative drama. As I said, their aim in life is to do harm. They're so twisted in their heads that their happiness, short-lived as it is, comes from ruining someone else's day. Don't be affected by their poison. When you encounter such people, smile. Wish them the best as they spew their verbal diarrhea. And speaking of negative fuckers, remember that old saying, misery loves company? Yeah? Good. So keep your distance from them. Those people are like flies, which are always looking for shit. Ever notice how you could be in the middle of the woods, let's say in the forests of northern Sweden, true story here, taking a dump, nothing around for miles but acres on acres of trees. Then, the second that first turd pokes its way out of your ass, the flies are there like stink on shit. Well, some people are exactly like that. The minute some bad crap manifests or people start gossiping about someone else, they rally around and feed the fire. You know what? Fuck those people. Avoid them. Always look for the positive. And that especially goes for relationships. I've had to cut so many people loose over the years. I just don't have time to waste on the bullshit drama they've created for themselves, especially when I've tried to help and they refuse to change. Some just have to be left behind for you to stay healthy. As my friend says, sometimes you have to unfollow people in real life. That's why these days I gravitate toward very positive, motivated peeps. That shit's contagious. It's the surefire way to get on the road to happiness. The opposite is also true. Negative people will drag you into their hellish world. Do me a favor and conduct a little test. Monitor those who are never happy. I guarantee you they start off each and every day talking shit about people, posting negative shit on social media, and constantly blaming others for the problems they themselves created. Now, I don't know about you, but if happiness is derived from a set of experiences in everyday life, I don't want to be around individuals who are stuck in their ways and have stank-ass attitudes. My philosophy is, the moment I open my eyes in the morning, I stop, reflect, and see that day as a gift. I've been given another day on earth to do something good with my life. Like my boy said, any day above ground is a good day, Johnny. That's why when I wake up, I immediately offer respects and say my mantras. I acknowledge the day as a gift. I also take a vow to help someone that day. Whether it's to go out and feed the homeless, do something nice for someone, or even just offer a few kind words of encouragement to someone who is struggling. I search out acts of kindness on a daily basis. You have no idea how heavy the statement, kindness is contagious, truly is. I find the quickest way to happiness is to go out and try to make others happy. I also make taking action part of my daily positive mindset, my PMA. I make my bed, clean my space, do my sit-ups and push-ups, make my juice. I identify the tasks on my corkboard and get to them. You see the process? Action, action, action. I give the mind no time for procrastination, no time to wallow in some negative headspace. I beat it into submission. That's my method. You should try that as well. Give thanks when you open your eyes each morning. Make your vows to accomplish whatever it is you will accomplish that day, especially in terms of helping others, and take action. I guarantee you'll become a happier person. I never want to give in to the rat race and become some cold, callous fucker. Compassionate people are the real rock stars on this planet. Not some douchebag, tattooed assholes or chicks with bad attitudes that think their shit don't stink. So words of advice from yours truly. Whether you live in New York, London, Sydney, Berlin, be nice boys and girls to everyone you meet. The world doesn't need more bad attitudes. It needs PMA. Life is a gift. Remember that and treat each day as such. You have to work on your mindset daily. It's really what determines your overall happiness. You may not be able to choose what life throws at you, but how you react to it, that, my friends, you have control over. The best way to beat a case of the blues or even a depression is to find positive things that make you feel good and then act on them. A good feeling will eventually manifest and blossom into happiness. It's a process and one that works. And just to be clear here, I'm not talking about the standing on the edge of the roof ready to jump kind of depression. For that, seek professional help. What I'm referring to here is the kind of depression that manifests over days, weeks, maybe even months. That kind of depression never starts out full blown. It creeps up on you because you gave in to the negativity instead of taking positive action. The solution to this kind of depression isn't more pills. Although nowadays, wacko shrinks tell you pills will save you, and they cash larger and larger checks from the pharmaceutical companies. If you don't believe what I'm telling you, I suggest you read a book called Confessions of an RX Drug Pusher. The real answer is PMA, positive mental attitude, and that comes from taking positive action every single moment of every single day. The choices you make when you're under pressure prove who you really are. Me, I can't even count the number of times I kicked my endorphins up a notch by going for a good run or working out or riding my bike or going for a swim. Exercise gets rid of my blues, but it didn't cure my depression. Do you know why? Because I never get depressed. I've already been there, done that. I lived on Depression Street for years when I was younger, caused by the seeming hopelessness of my circumstances. Most of those circumstances were beyond my control, but not all of them. Some I had a direct hand in. These days, I stopped depression in its early stages. I've been down in them trenches, and I know if I don't nip it in the bud, shit can get real ugly real fast. I'm not cured of my disease. I'm just telling you that my depression's in remission, and only because I took my meds, my daily dose of PMA. They say if you don't remember your past, you're doomed to repeat it. I never want to go back down to the hell I once found myself in. That's my constant fear, and it's not a bad fear to have. I should be scared of that hell. That's why I work each day to avoid it. I don't have to fight the darkness. All I have to do is bring so much light into the room that the darkness dissipates and disappears. It has to, because it needs to make room for all that happiness. As I said, happiness is derived from a series of experiences. So I want to make damn sure I do everything in my power to make those experiences happen. You do your work too. Fight like hell to become happy. Remember, happiness is not a birthright. It's a work right. As an exercise, put a piece of blue masking tape across the top of your corkboard. If you still don't have a corkboard, stop reading, get off your ass, and go get one. While you're there, Get a pack of 3x5 index cards and some push pins. Next, write PMA on the left side of the tape. Then, on a dozen index cards, list the things that make you happy. Maybe even add a few of the things I've suggested, like helping others. Pin those 12 cards to the corkboard under PMA. Then, on the far right side of the tape, write negativity. Take another dozen cards and list the things that put you in a bad mood. Pin those to the corkboard as well, under negativity. Now, take a picture of the whole board with your smartphone so you don't forget both sides and watch the events of your day. Which column are you choosing to live under? Your answer will be one of the factors that determine your road to happiness. The simple act of considering the good things in your life will distance you from your own negative thoughts, thoughts that are serving as a barrier to your happiness. A word on grief. Losing a loved one to death or breakup or addiction or some other circumstance can really do a number on you. Sometimes that loved one is yourself or parts of yourself, such as when your childhood or your adolescence or some part of your integrity has been lost. Grieving is part of everyone's life because loss is inevitable and nothing else is certain except death. So of course it's only natural to grieve. But the thing is, you have to push through it. You have to do that for your own survival. You cannot let grief consume your days and nights like some all-devouring fire, or worse, push you to numb your pain by taking drugs or alcohol to cope. During times of grief, you really need to apply the methods contained in the PMA Effect. Let me tell you about a man we'll call Steve. I met Steve years ago while feeding the homeless in Tompkins Square Park. He came for months to get food. He never spoke to anyone, but he was appreciative and very polite. I knew this man had a story. All homeless people do. It's so wrong to think that they're just bums looking for a handout. Well, one day it started to rain heavily while we were serving, so Steve helped us rig up a tarp over our table so we didn't have to close down. I took the opportunity to strike up a conversation with him. He told me he camped out under the FDR Drive off the East River. I asked him how he came to be homeless. He paused. I could see the memory was painful for him. I guess because he could sense I wasn't judging him, that I was genuinely concerned, he opened up about it. He told me that he had been a hotshot Wall Street broker, pulling in a high six-figure salary every year. He had lived with his family, a wife and 2 daughters, in a doorman building in Battery Park City. His family was his entire world. They took vacations together. The girls attended good schools. Basically, this man lived a charmed life. Then, while he and his family were upstate visiting relatives, his wife and daughters were killed in a horrible automobile accident caused by an idiot drunk driver. And in that moment, his world was destroyed. The grief and pain were unbearable. He took to drinking after work every day and taking sedatives to sleep. Then cocaine got him through the day. Soon he was missing work, first days, then weeks. He spiraled into alcoholism and drug addiction. Eventually, he gave up hope, then lost his job, apartment, and everything else. He didn't care. Nothing mattered anymore. Steve closed himself off from the world. He stopped talking to his family members and friends and lived by collecting bottles on the street and cashing them in for a little food. He also went to food distribution programs around Manhattan. When it was warm, he lived in a cardboard box on the FDR. And when it got too cold, he went into the subway stations. This had been going on for 3 years. I was stunned to hear his story. I couldn't begin to imagine what he must have been through, the amount of suffering involved with his particular type of loss. We talked a few more times when he came by, and when he asked, I also told him some of my story. Then he stopped coming. Months went by. I hoped he was okay. I asked other homeless people who knew him from the FDR encampment, but no one had seen him. Then one day out of the blue, he showed up again to help us serve. Steve was clean, sober, and wearing nice clothes. He said he'd come out in order to pay forward what he had received. He had never forgotten what we'd done for him. He said he had been so lonely back then, and the hot meals we were serving along with the little bit of conversation he had with me was enough to get him through another day. I asked how he'd overcome his grief. He told me that one night he found himself standing on the Manhattan Bridge ready to jump. That was his defining moment. He thought of his wife and kids. When they were alive, they would do anything to make him happy. He saw their faces in his mind's eye, and they were sad that he was about to take his own life. He broke down crying. Then he stepped off the bridge and vowed never to touch drugs and alcohol again. He moved into a shelter, found a job, and dug himself out of the hole his grief had created in his life. Imagine the internal strength that took. His true character was revealed. He was indeed a warrior. Unfortunately, the sad truth is that a lot of people in his shoes would have jumped. I've seen so many I've known over the years commit suicide. For them, something happened and they couldn't shake off the grief. Grief spirals into serious depression and can grip you like a champion grappler if you let it. I have family members who self-medicate because of past traumas. Shit, I used to do it too. When I was on my 2-year crack pill and booze tear, I even wished one of the drug dealers I was robbing would just end my misery with a bullet. But in the end, I reached out and begged for help. If you're grieving, you must reach out. Don't go it alone. People will help. I know some of you reading this now are suffering loss. Remember, one stick is easily snapped, but a bundle of sticks is much harder to break. So seek out good association. People have compassion. Most of them will know what you're going through because no one has made it very far in life without suffering. Grieving is part of life, but when it turns into a very negative situation, you need to reach out. Suicide is not the answer. It only leaves a trail of destruction behind. Fight like a warrior and get shit off your chest. There are people who will listen, but you have to be honest about what you're going through. My friend from Tompkins Square Park to this day attends NA and AA meetings, talking to others who may be where he was during that dark period of his life. He's paying it forward. MRI for the soul. When was the last time you actually sat back and monitored your internal life, your feelings, emotions, happiness? Have you taken inventory lately on where your spiritual practice is at? Those who remain constantly mindful answer that they take this type of inventory almost daily. Others say they never do it at all. If we're caught up in the rat race, we can easily lose sight of what's important in life. Now, I'm not suggesting you ignore your daily needs for making money to support yourself. Rather, I'm suggesting you dedicate as much time, if not more, to your internal quest. The material body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and ego. Remember, we asked those questions. Who are you? Are you that gross or subtle material body? If you were, you wouldn't be saying things like my hand, my mind, my intelligence, my body. Who is the my? Who owns your body and mind? These are deep questions. And if you consider them, you'll find that you are none of those gross or subtle bits of matter, but the self inside them, a passenger, the person who knows the body and mind and their field of activities. It takes self-reflection around these matters. Self-reflection is mandatory in developing a deeper and truer sense of self. Getting to know the self allows us to think of more eternal goals and happiness. If you fill your life with only what's temporary, you'll end up only with things that are temporary, fleeting, and permanent. Remember, we come into this world empty-handed, and we sure as hell leave empty-handed. There ain't no luggage racks on top of that hearse, my friends. One of the many books I read daily to help me focus on what's important, what's internal and eternal, is India's classic, the Bhagavad Gita. Although there are many Gitas out there, I read Bhagavad Gita as it is, by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Gita teaches about the soul and how it is completely transcendental to the body and mind, and therefore beyond the limitations of matter. It teaches us to identify with something truer about ourselves, the platform of self where we can tap into our unlimited potential. If we remain fixed in the spiritual consciousness, even when we're under pressure in this world, which we certainly will be, then we'll find ourselves having the resilience and strength of self to deal with them. These days, really in every era, there's much pressure to fit in and be accepted. This pressure especially affects younger people. I mean, look at all the bullying that's going on. Some of it has, unfortunately, even led some kids to commit suicide. The solution to peer pressure is spiritual grounding. If you know you are beyond the temporary body and mind, then there's no need to convince others of your self-worth. Your self-worth is rooted in the truth about yourself. So it gives you confidence and perspective on how to pursue your goals with integrity. Social status actually don't matter. You don't need to make it into the right clique of so-called cool people or some scene. Think of all the bullshit that goes along with that. We all want our lives to matter. Most of us want to make a positive contribution to society. In order to do that, we have to look inward and get past all the superficial crap this materialistic society tells us to strive for. Those are distractions. When symptoms of illness appear in the body, those symptoms are a warning that something's not right and we better go for tests to find out what's happening. We might be sent for an MRI. Well, the symptoms people are exhibiting these days, depression, drug addiction, overeating, drinking, anxiety, and worse, tell anyone watching with any awareness that the soul is ill. How do we diagnose and heal the problem? Simple. Reflect, look inward. Do things that contribute to your internal life. Read, study, and then apply what you've learned. Take a break from mass media, commercials that are trying to sell you shit, the club scene and the internet. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 2 states, and I quote, "This knowledge of self is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by self-realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed." End quote. And the purport that follows by Srila Prabhupada states, and I quote, "Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities. But there is, unfortunately, no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. End quote. Rest assured, he's talking about something that's beyond religion, which isn't always focused on the self or soul. That's why the Gita calls this knowledge it's teaching the perfection of religion. Knowledge of the soul is what serious religionists are striving for. In an attempt to speak to everyone, even though all religions have similar soul-based teachings, churches and temples and mosques often stick to a dogmatic or blind faith, and some even get lost in fanaticism, none of which can bring you closer to the truth. In closing, I hope I've left you with something to think about. Hopefully, you'll at least walk away from this section with questions for which you can then seek the answers. The willingness to inquire about the nature of life is a sign of real intelligence. I remember when I first got into philosophy, yoga, and metaphysics, I'd sit around for hours with my friends discussing things of substance. It was an amazing experience, and it really opened me up. I think that kind of inquiry is missing from today's youth culture. There are so many distractions. It's the same for us older people, too. I mean, have you checked out the shit your friends post every day online? 99.999% of it is complete and utter bullshit nonsense. That's why we need an internal spiritual MRI. Taking that kind of inventory is the first big step in implementing PMA and finding lasting happiness. Part 3. Remove stumbling blocks. If you're trying to light a fire, don't throw water on it. This section of the book will address things that will crush your daily PMA and set you back on the path. If you become aware of those negative traps, you'll know what to watch out for. Don't play the victim, the blame game. I can't stand it when people make excuses for being fuck-ups because they had it rough. But John, you don't understand. I'm a drug-addicted, two-bit lying, cheating scumbag thief because my mother never gave me enough hugs. And sometimes at school I opened up my Spider-Man lunchbox and discovered that she's forgotten to put jelly on my peanut butter sandwich. Wah! Wah! Seriously, get over it and grow the fuck up. That's exactly what I had to do in my life because my real friends had the balls to tell me the deal instead of enabling me to continue in my self-pity. Some of the most accomplished people on planet Earth had to overcome some of the most difficult circumstances to get where they are. Playing the victim ultimately means we can sidestep our own shortcomings while we focus on our suffering and the faults of others. And that means we don't have to fix our shit. I mean, God forbid we turn the focus on ourselves. Now that I stopped playing the victim card and blaming others, I'm able to use my past as incentive to motivate me to get somewhere and to never give up and go back to that former life. So rather than bitching, moaning, and blaming, wanting everyone to feel sorry for me, I made a conscious choice to fight day by day to change the path I was on. The first thing I did was get sober. I knew I had sobriety in my control, that it was up to me. You do too. Fix things right away. Just do something to get started on that. For me, it began with exercising and maintaining a clean plant-based diet. I meditated and started a yoga routine. I took what was in my immediate power and started there. When you follow that process, you'll find out what you're made of. The fact is, if you think everyone will treat you right in life, you're setting yourself up for a letdown. I'm fully aware there are jerk-offs out there, both male and female. So when somebody acts a fool and is disrespectful, it shouldn't flip me out. I've met some very advanced souls too. People who actually accepted the mistreatment they got from others as their own karma. One of my good friends never gets rattled when others do him grimy. He simply accepts it and says, it's God's grace to push me forward on the path. That's an advanced state of consciousness, and by no means am I there, but I can strive to get there, as can you. Playing the victim card allows us to avoid responsibility for our lives, for our mistakes, for our happiness. We can just go on making excuses, blaming others for bad shit we may have in fact created. I'm speaking as an adult, of course, not as a child who may have had bad situations forced upon him or her. There are also those who play the victim card to justify their abuse of others. I know some of these people personally, and I avoid them like the plague. They're toxic as hell. Although they can flip the script on their lives and create healthier circumstances, they don't seize the opportunity because they want to play the victim role just so they can mistreat other people. Life will always give us shit to complain about. Things are always going to happen. Someone is definitely going to do you wrong. Situations will not turn out the way you hope. But playing the victim doesn't get you anywhere. All it does is make you point the blame elsewhere. You don't have to fix anything because, hey, it's not your fault. This attitude is very dangerous. It will stunt your emotional growth. Make sure when bad things arise in your life that instead of playing the victim, you take responsibility and work your ass off to fix or heal whatever problems or obstacles have appeared on your path. Be mindful of criticizing others. Criticism is the only reliable form of autobiography. Oscar Wilde. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about constructive criticism, the kind that comes from a positive place and is meant to help someone. I'm referring here to the destructive type. Always be mindful of how your words may impact others. Personally, I'm pretty thick-skinned, but not everyone is. Some people don't deal with criticism at all, so always be compassionate. You may destroy someone's self-esteem with ill-chosen words. So much so that in extreme cases, he or she may shut down, or even worse, harm him or herself. Some people don't think twice, or as they say, have no filter when it comes to criticizing others. In reality, though, when people spread poison, it's usually because of feelings they're having or things they're trying to deal with in themselves. They're actually broadcasting to the world what they themselves need to fix. My advice is before you say anything, always consider whether you need to say it at all. Then make sure it's coming from a good place. Never procrastinate, waste time, or give in to resistance. Look at how much time can be wasted when you procrastinate. You could waste weeks, months, even years, letting them slip by as you slip further from your goals. Time truly is our most valuable commodity. Ancient Indian politician and philosopher Chanakya Pandit once said, and I quote, "Time is so valuable that even if you pay millions of gold coins, you cannot get back even a moment." End quote. That's exactly what procrastination does. It squanders your valuable time. You miss opportunities, then lament about what could have been, if only. Procrastination can seep into any area of your life, from your career to your relationships to taking care of your health. The more you put things off, the more work they'll seem to be, and the more pressure you'll feel. All that will mess with your self-esteem. Why doesn't anything happen for me? What the fuck is wrong with me? I see these type of self-sabotaging posts every day on social media. I monitor that shit for some of the people who come to me for advice before I step in and say anything. Not from a bad place, but as constructive criticism. Then it's up to the people I'm talking to listen and not waste time on nonsense, procrastinating while they could be doing something of real substance. Procrastination can and will destroy your self-confidence over time. Then rather than PMA, you'll end up with something on the opposite end of the spectrum, a shitty-ass attitude. That's why your word is so important. When you say you're going to do something, by God, make it your business to get it done. You must be impeccable with your word. Not following through on things will definitely destroy your reputation on so many levels with so many people. Even on the streets, it's said, all I got is my word. My word is my bond. Putting things off constantly only makes matters worse, especially when it comes to caring for your health. Let's face it, an unhealthy body or mind can ruin your life. Procrastination is a deep form of resistance. I've mentioned Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, here and there in these pages. In his book, Pressfield talks about giving in to resistance. And I quote, "Resistance is experienced as fear. The degree of fear equates to the strength of resistance. Therefore, the more fear we feel about a specific enterprise, the more certain we can be that that enterprise is important to us and to the growth of our soul. That's why we feel so much resistance. If it means nothing to us, there'd be no resistance." End quote. And what could be more important than flipping the script of your mental life from negative to positive? Believe me, it's a lifelong battle, but one well worth fighting. By entering this battlefield, you'll create a whole new journey for yourself. And that's why resistance will attack the hell out of you. The first step in fixing any problem is to recognize there is one. As many sage people say, deal with fire, debt, and disease immediately. Well, procrastination is a type of disease. Some people spend their entire lives worrying about the future instead of dealing with the present, with the problems and desires and opportunities right in front of them in the here and now. Procrastination is a way to avoid working with those things, which in reality are the only ones over which we have even a little control. No one knows what the future holds, but when it arrives, it'll still be the present. And if you're a procrastinator, you'll push that future date away just as easily as you pushed away today's. Every day, we can fight mini wars that lead to victory in the overall battle on the war against resistance. Giving in, quitting even small things you said you do, leads to bigger problems. For one, you develop a flaker's mentality. If you say you're going to wake up early and jog 3 miles, get your ass out of bed and do it, by any means necessary. You have to do things, especially when you don't want to. A deep resistance to a particular task usually indicates a deep need for it. Those tasks are usually related to self-improvement. As you try to change for the better, expect resistance. You'll find yourself saying, you know what? I'll start that yoga next week. Don't. Start it today. And procrastination breeds negativity because it creates a sense of unrest as you avoid things, leaving the unconscious mind in a constant state of agitation. You should know that things you want to do but then avoid never quite make it off your unconscious to-do list. You know what you have to do, so stop putting it off. The water may be cold, but once you're in, you'll get used to it. It'll actually feel good. No different with tackling tasks. The enemy mind will make even the littlest, easiest thing into some huge issue. That's why we need to constantly beat it with a stick. That can only be done, as I mentioned earlier, by engaging the mind under the direction of the intelligence. I love the analogy of trying to light a fire while you're throwing water on it at the same time. On that note, let's look at one of the main reasons many people can't get their asses into gear, why they procrastinate, and if they do take action, don't give it their all. Okay, you party animals. If you want a surefire way to fuck your life up and get nothing done, do drugs and drink. Now, I'm not talking about an occasional glass of wine or a beer with friends. I'm talking about taking these substances into body and mind day after day. It's no coincidence that most people who do that are also the biggest slackers when it comes to matters of any substance. I have a friend here in New York City, and he called every meeting about his business plans networking. Now, did these so-called networking meetings happen at his apartment or in an office at 6 a.m.? Hell no. They involve going to clubs and bars to have drinks. Drinks led to cocaine, just to keep all that business talk flowing. Then, after this productive night of networking, my friend would top off the evening with Xanax, Valium, or whatever the hell else he had to take just to get to sleep at 4 a.m. once the bar is closed. Would you like to know what business he's in now? Bullshitting and scamming people. He even managed to hustle his own mother, draining her life savings so he could continue in his full-time job of being a drug addict. As for me, I'm sober. I avoid even the champagne toast on New Year's Eve because I'm an addict and always will be. I choose not to get high or drink today. My disease is in remission. I'm fully aware just how easy it is to start down that slippery slope back toward addiction. Taking those substances into my body would be like playing Russian roulette. Besides, I love the feeling of staying clean and sober. It feels great. Sobriety is good for my body, mind, soul, and especially my PMA. Drinking or any drug use can wreak havoc in your life. You probably ain't gonna do that run, bike, or workout at the gym if you got fucked up the night before. And if you do, by some strange miracle, your performance will be total shit. Another one of the many books I've read on my journey is The Science of Self-Realization by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In it, He says that intoxication destroys austerity. Austerity? Yeah. It means undertaking hardship to achieve a particular result. By that definition, one of the many austerities I've embarked on is trying to fix the fucked up me. It's been a battle, and I'll be the first to admit I've had some serious issues and still have some. But by keeping my wits about me and staying sober, I'm able to stay in the fight. Speaking from personal experience, some of the biggest flakes and depressed people I know, I'm not referring to clinical depression, of course, are people who get fucked up all the time. Whether it's in pursuit of their careers in music, acting, training, writing, or life in general. They talk the talk but never walk the walk. See, resistance loves people who get slammed all the time because then it has a drinking buddy. Your drinking buddy will tell you, "It's okay, John, have another. Everything's gonna be all right." But as Stephen Pressfield said, and I quote, "Resistance is always lying and always full of shit. It will con, cheat, and fuck you over." End quote. Please don't make the mistake of thinking that I'm fault-finding here. What I'm doing is pointing out the pitfalls that can crush your effort and spiral your life out of control. Remember, addiction never starts out full-blown. It creeps up on you. The fact is, since I got completely sober, I've worked hard, shown up every day, stayed motivated, kicked ass on my projects, and I'm never depressed. Even if I get a case of the blues, by the time I've gone for my run, swim, ride, done my meditation, or gone to the gym, the blues are gone. You can only give up a lower taste by replacing it with something higher. Trying to be artificially happy by getting stoned or drunk will get you nowhere. In the long run, it actually takes you further from your goals. Also, let's take a look at the root of the word. Intoxication. Get it? You're poisoning yourself. I don't need booze, weed, pills, MDMA, or ayahuasca to have a good experience. I'm on a natural high. Things that affect your mind actually bring you down off the higher vibration of your natural spiritual nature. Don't let people peddle that bullshit to you with some hallucinogenic. Remember what it is, a drug. You're not experiencing a blissful, permanent spiritual moment when you take it. You're having a temporary drug episode. When the drug wears off, poof, the experience is gone. I know people who had so much going for them, but pissed it away by taking intoxication. I'm not here to preach, but to suggest what worked for me. That said, I've only accomplished what I have thus far because I no longer get drunk or party, ever. Matter of fact, I was up at 5 a.m. this morning to train for my upcoming Ironman. After that, I went to the lab to write. Try doing either the training or the writing with a hangover or while you're crashing from MDMA ingestion. So here's a mantra to remember. Intoxication destroys motivation. Intoxication destroys motivation. Intoxication destroys motivation. Test yourself. Try full sobriety for 1 month and watch how everything falls into place. Your relationships with others will improve. You'll eat better, have a desire to exercise, and you won't flake on your projects. You'll wake up in a good mood and maintain it throughout the day. Getting fucked up can never solve problems. It can only mask them temporarily. What's with all the complaining? Do you know why happy, successful people don't complain much? Because they're too busy figuring out ways to turn negative situations into positive ones. Simply put, they don't want to invest energy in things that won't achieve success or change things that need changing. No one is going to deal with a complainer for too long either. Me, I listen then offer advice. If the complainer doesn't take it, I step the fuck off. There are only so many hours in a day, and I just don't have time for complainers or ask-holes. Those who ask for advice, but don't follow it. If things aren't happening in your life rather than belly aching constantly, seek out ways to fix it. You might want to go back to the procrastination section above and take a look at how much time you allocate to the pursuit of your dreams and how much you waste on bullshit. If I claim to be a writer but only spend an hour a day writing and 4 hours on Facebook or watching TV or Netflix, am I really trying to be a writer? I don't think so. Now, don't get me wrong. I vent plenty. It's good to blow off steam, but there's a big difference between venting and being a chronic complainer. Chronic complainers always have drama. Something's always wrong. Somebody always did them dirty at work, in their relationships, their bands, and their shit is always more important than everybody else's. I mean, God forbid you're having an off day, because I can assure you they don't want to hear about it. They're too consumed by their own narcissism. Newsflash, there are a lot of people, in fact, everyone you meet, who are dealing with things. But most of them don't broadcast it to the world on social media. Seriously, I've been deleting a ton of those fuckers as of late. But you know whose comments I hit the like button to? People who roll with that PMA. One of my friends, whom I knew had cancer and had just gone through a divorce, never complained. Well, he beat the disease, has a wonderful new relationship, and his career has taken off. Do you think that would have happened if he was busy playing the victim, procrastinating, or complaining all the time? I bet that woman he's come to love and his employer were attracted to his energy because he was the epitome of a positive mental attitude. Try and focus on the good things in your life. If there aren't any, make some. You have that power. The PMA Effect is all about self-empowerment. If there's a problem with someone, work out a way to solve it. Confront the person, but tactfully. Often when someone is spewing his gripes to me about someone else, I say, Joe, did you tell X this? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Constant complaining does nothing to fix issues. What it will do, though, is push your people away and spin you down into lonely, dark mental hells. You will give in to the enemy mind and may later find yourself on some bar stool drinking shots with some negative fucker. I will leave you with these wise words from author Eckhart Tolle, and I quote, "To complain is always non-acceptance of what is. It invariably carries an unconscious negative charge. When you complain, you make yourself into a victim. When you speak out, you are in power. So change the situation by taking action or by speaking out if necessary or possible. Leave the situation or accept it. All else is madness." End quote. Stop stressing. Stress is a killer. It's been medically proven that too much stress triggers bad things in the body. Stress also affects your thoughts and behavior. Left unchecked, stress can contribute to a number of health problems, including high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and more. Stress also affects the neuroendocrine system, causing high levels of cortisol to be released, which affects your adrenal glands, causing fatigue or failure. We all have to deal with stress, but each of us does it differently. Some of us work through it while it drives others to fly off the handle. I know I've reacted to stress like that in the past. I'm not above anger, but I'd like to share some exercises I now use to deal with stress. The main one is to stay mindful, perspective. Previously, when someone pushed my buttons or something happened in my day that wasn't pleasant, I'd react harshly. Ironically, the byproduct of the stress and my reaction to it was more stress. So these days I try to take a step back, reflect on and analyze the situation, and see it as a test meant to push me forward in my self-improvement. I'm not always successful in controlling my stress, but hey, I made the effort. As long as I keep trying, the desired result will eventually manifest. That said, being able to monitor and manage stress starts with being able to recognize its symptoms. How does your body respond to it? When you're in a dangerous, stressful situation, most people's fight or flight response is activated. Your heart rate and blood pressure rise, your palms get sweaty, and adrenaline is released into your bloodstream. Have you ever seen a corner man in a fight tell his fighter, "Okay now, deep breaths"? One of the top MMA trainers on the planet, Greg Jackson, does that all the time. In the middle of all that chaos, all that stress, he tells his fighter to meditate and control his breathing. It's not just to increase his oxygen intake, it's to help his fighter deal with the stress of battle and to stay mindful and centered. In that state, the fighter is able to reflect on his months of training. He focuses all his attention on Greg's instructions, but more importantly, he's able to apply them when the buzzer sounds for the next round. So remain mindful when you're facing a stressful situation. Watch your thoughts, emotions, and how you're responding to them. How you respond to stress will tell you a lot about yourself. It's worth studying. It will also show you what tools you have or need to develop in your arsenal. Do you know why the military puts their special operations recruits under the most stressful conditions imaginable? It's to teach them to rely on countless hours of training in order to push through any obstacle. Cool heads always prevail, especially in war or the war of life. If you can't keep cool under stress, if you lose your shit, you're gone. That's how the military special ops selection process works. They push you to make decision after decision under intense, relentless pressure. So what I tell myself and others when they're flipping out is, yo, take some deep breaths, man. Just breathe. It'll pass. Deep breathing is calming. That's why in yoga, students learn to control the breath. A controlled, calm breath is essential for meditation. I use deep breathing techniques all the time. It's very powerful. Your breath is full of prana, energy. Anger pollutes the body and breath, shutting down the third eye chakra. When you practice your breathing relaxation techniques, I'll give you some in a minute, your heart rate slows, blood pressure stabilizes, muscles relax, and blood flows to your brain, which means your overall energy and focus increase. I'm telling you, I've done this deep breathing during some of the hardest moments while racing Ironman, and it works. Your ability to solve problems increases tenfold. A positive mindset, PMA, is your most powerful weapon against stress. It's stronger than any drug, prescription or otherwise. I've seen people make some very bad choices when they're under stress, especially when that stress has led them to anger. If you sit back and monitor your stress, you'll see there's a pattern to your responses. Stress can creep in, grab hold, then choke the living shit out of you. Don't let it happen. This book is about trying new ways of doing things. Instead of smacking that rude person next to you, try the following tips to help manage your stress. Some of them might even look familiar by this point in the book. Practice, practice, practice. Set aside time. Schedule times to practice. I find it's easier to practice your breathing, meditation, or any other self-time practices first thing in the morning when you're fresh and before your day gets in your way. I also take time in the middle of the day. And don't bullshit. You have 5 minutes for it. What you invest is what you'll get out. Don't expect perfection right out the box. Expect ups and downs. You aren't going to have a major breakthrough every day. That's just not realistic. You'll have them, though, guaranteed, as long as you make the investment in your practice. You may even miss days. Don't be discouraged. Shit happens. Remember, slipping up and giving up are two different things. Start again and push through. Be mindful during exercise and meditation. I see it at the gym that instead of focusing, many people stare at the TVs mounted above or on their exercise machines. Stop it, please. My trainer's gym has no fucking TVs. He wants you to focus 100% on movement and breathing, on how your body feels. Even while meditating, the mind can carry you away, focusing on your stressors instead of your practice. Stay mindful. Breath is life. Sit comfortably in a quiet place, no gadgets, with your back straight. Focus all your energy. Breathe in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Watch your breaths. Note your mood. After each breath cycle, you'll feel stress diminish. Listen to your body. Now go to that happy place. Don't eat shit food. Jesus, again with the freaking food, John. Yeah, and I'm harping on this point because I know how important diet is in our overall physical and mental health. So diet is a natural follow-up to the stress section because what you eat so much affects your mood. Bad diet can also make the body stress and acidic, which leads to disease. Not to mention how stressed out you're going to be when you're running to doctors and hospitals all the time and shelling out big bucks for all those drugs they have you on. The power of plant-based foods comes from their abundant vital nutrients. Nutrients your body needs to fight off stress. Foods like spinach, kale, and other greens, fruits and nuts, beans and legumes, veggies, whole grains, chia, quinoa, and other seeds are nature's antidepressants. I can speak personally on the power of what a good, organic, whole food, plant-based diet has done for me in terms of mood. The first catalyst pulling me out of my hell was changing the way I thought about food. Something clicked inside my crazy, fucked up head, and my whole consciousness changed. That was the first step ultimately leading to me changing my life. Now maybe you're telling yourself that eating a pint of ice cream or a burger and fries helps you deal with stress. It's comfort food, right? Let me ask you, what's so comfortable about hemorrhoids, quadruple bypasses, the pain of diabetes, or having part of your cancerous, rotten colon ripped from your ass and having a crap in a colostomy bag? Want a wake-up call? In Meat is for Pussies, I break the science down for you about what meat and all that processed crap does to the human body after years of ingesting it. On the flip side, think about all the stress the animals you're eating have been under for their entire lives and right up to the moment of slaughter. Like humans, stressed animals release toxic stress hormones into their bloodstreams, which invariably enter their muscle tissue. I don't know about you, but I sure as fuck don't want to eat that. And we don't have to. The science is out now about the abundant benefits a plant-based diet offers you in every area of your life. There are also incredible foods out there waiting to be discovered. So answer the phone. That's the future calling. But even when you're eating healthy foods, you can still obsess and stress. I see those types all the time. I call them macro-psychotics. They all look batshit crazy and unhealthy too, despite the good food they're eating. Every little food issue causes them to obsess, stress out, and have a fucking meltdown. Excuse me, you fucking oversteamed my broccoli, asshole. So you need balance even in terms of diet. Eat to live, don't live to eat. Did you know I had an eating disorder? Not the throwing up type. Shit, the state didn't raise no fool. I wasn't wasting all that expensive organic food. I was an overeater. I think I developed this one because I was starved as a kid. As an adult, I always had an unconscious fear that food would disappear again and I'd go hungry. Now couple that with a shitty, depressive relationship, a back injury that prevented me from training, and you have a recipe for disaster. I ate until I was ready to explode, and then I ate some more. Food became my drug, my coping mechanism. I ballooned to nearly 200 pounds. You want proof? Go watch that CBGB's DVD with the Cro-Mags. I had more rolls than a fucking bakery back then. The point I'm making is that when you start on a positive road, You won't want your physical vehicle breaking down on you. Caring about what goes into the body is a must if you want to achieve a positive mindset. But don't obsess like a macropsychotic who actually loses sleep and needs therapy and meds if, God forbid, he or she eats a fucking French fry. There's a happy medium. Find it and stay balanced. So eat healthy if you want to avoid trouble down the road. And let's be honest, a lot of obese people eat for emotional reasons. They're hurting inside just like I was, and like me. Many of them medicate with food. Well, one way to reverse all of that and change it is to start a healthy lifestyle and eating regimen. And of course, follow what's in the rest of this book. There are also what I call unconscious eaters. For that, let's back up a second and go back to the section on getting wasted. Some people stuff their faces with complete garbage when they're fucked up at 4 a.m. and leaving a club. Why do you think those cocksuckers with the schism cancer carts cooking shish kebabs made of mystery meat and grilled horse dicks are stationed out front? They know you'll pony up for some of those weapons of mass destruction because your decision-making process has been compromised. If you saw that crap in the light of day, most of you would vomit. Anyway, are you starting to see how all of this ties together? The partying, the food, the bad attitude, the stress. How it's like a puzzle with all the pieces fitting together. You don't get to pick and choose. That's the deal we made at the beginning of this journey. You have to follow the entire PMA process, and that includes the dietary stuff. I can tell you from experience that there will be a major shift in your consciousness if you do. Positive vibes will fill your life, and positive vibes attract positive people. Remember, this is coming from one angry, fucked up, drug-addicted criminal. I mean, shit, if it worked for someone as damaged as me, it can work for you or anyone. Try this. Eat a whole food, plant-based diet for 1 month. Meditate. Practice mindfulness when you're stressed. Avoid negative people. Get plenty of rest. Stay drug, alcohol, and tobacco free. Exercise daily to get your endorphins flowing. Breathe. If you don't feel better in 30 days, I'll buy this motherfucking book back from you. Don't identify with negative thoughts. I struggled big time with negativity. Negative thoughts entered my mind, and I dwell on them for hours, letting them consume me. They'd fester like a cancer. Sometimes I'd be in a bad mood for days. I got migraines. Dwelling on negativity rather than working my way through it and finding positive solutions to my problems has been one of my stumbling blocks over the years. I had so much pent-up anger and aggro toward people who did shit to me as a kid. When I gave time to those negative thoughts and let them take hold, it put me in the worst mood. I'd lash out, sometimes even physically. It took me years of work on myself to overcome this, and I still struggle with it from time to time. The first step in my healing process was to stop identifying with the thoughts, to see myself as aloof from the mind and its ever-flowing poisonous crap. Negative thoughts ebb and flow like the tide, so stay mindful. The more you practice awareness of your thought patterns and what they're doing to you, the faster you'll redirect your energy to something positive. The ability to redirect is like muscle building. If you want to develop your muscles and become strong, you have to exercise daily. I do my mental exercises because of this. I practice seeing myself as separate from my mind and thoughts. If negative thoughts enter the mind, and trust me, they do, I take a step back, then immediately refocus my mind on something positive. Someone talks shit about me? Big deal. I'm going on a bike ride, and in an hour, I'll be out at the beach, soaking up vitamin D from the sun and practicing PMA. Then when I get back, I'm going out to feed the homeless. When we learn to see ourselves as different, as above the mind, we identify with the essence. We are spiritual by nature. Know that. We say, my mind, not I mind. See? Remove yourself from the mental platform to your higher self. Don't give negative thoughts room to turn into negative emotions or even worse, bad actions. Anyone who's known me for a long time knows that I hemmed up many a chump in my earlier years for talking smack. Now, that smack talking rolls off me like water on a duck's back. I don't give a shit. Their words reflect their negative world and can't touch me as long as I don't identify with the negativity. I can't. I've got too much positive work to do. The other thing I've noticed in my 56 plus years on planet Earth is that we often blow things out of proportion. We let that seed of negative thoughts take root. We even water it with our words and actions. But when we take a step back and deal with things objectively, when we take our emotions out of the equation and base everything on fact, we'll usually discover quickly that whatever it is not such a big deal. Develop your inner strength and you'll choose to change destructive thinking to constructive thinking. Getting drawn into negative thinking all the time is like building a prison for the mind. If you want to be free, pay attention to your thoughts, how they compound, and where they lead. Our thoughts play a major role in our lives and health. For example, when things don't go your way, do you immediately tell yourself you're not good enough? We can criticize ourselves constantly, you know. We all know people who do that, who are extremely hard on themselves. They focus on their flaws instead of what's good in themselves and their lives. So learn to let things go. As souls conditioned by self-ignorance to one degree or another, we're all flawed. The Vedas categorize those flaws into 4 basic defects, true of anyone who's living a conditioned life. 1. We each make mistakes. 2. We each have the tendency to cheat ourselves and others. 3. We each operate under so many illusions. And 4. We each have imperfect senses. So we're all works in progress striving to become better human beings. That won't happen overnight. But if you put in the work, if you show up every day, eventually you'll get to where you want to be. So let them negative thoughts go. As Bob Marley said, you just can't live that negative way. Do you know what I mean? Make way for the positive day. Rastafari. Let them grudges go. Most of us are guilty of this at some point. I can tell you that a grudge is one hell of a heavy burden to carry around. To err is human. We all make mistakes. We do and others do. So learn to let things go. I'm not telling you that to forgive means you have to become friends with the people who did you grimy. I'm just saying that your life and attitude will be better when you can forgive and move on. Forgive, but don't forget. I'm clearly not suggesting that by forgiving, you then let someone continue to walk on you. There are those out there who will. I've had to forgive certain people for doing some vile shit to me, and I've let some of them back into my space, thinking perhaps there was a way to fix things and rekindle old friendships. That's just sentimental most of the time. Yeah, I got swept up in the old reminiscing about the good old days bullshit. You know, back when it was real, hoping there was a way to relive it. One person used this to his advantage and with his premeditated plan tried to fuck me over again. Lesson learned. Remember, a leopard can never change its spots. That's why these days I'm pretty short on patience. I have to be because I have no time for drama. I'm too focused on getting my tasks done. If someone knowingly does something to fuck me, I cut that person out of my life. Out of sight, out of mind. I hold no grudges or ill will. I just move the fuck on. Sometimes shit happens and arguments arise, but 2 healthy adults will usually resolve their differences in positive ways. But the ones who live to harm, the envious, who show their true colors time and again, Well, they get their motherfucking walking papers. Hating someone and carrying a grudge is like carrying around a heavy, toxic load on your back. It will eventually consume you and make you sick from the stress and anxiety of it. It may even cause serious depression if the betrayal was by someone you were close to. Let it go. If the friendship or relationship was real and the other party truly valued it, he or she will sincerely apologize. Then it's up to you to be big enough to accept it. And depending on the circumstances and the relationship, continue on or release that person. So keep your life free of ill will and grudges. Keep your mind focused on the good in your life. We've already discussed the working of the enemy mind. Well, that enemy mind will look for anything negative and throw you for a loop. Grudges especially. Your day can be going great, filled with positive endeavors. You're working on your projects and you're getting your shit done. And then there's a reminder of that person or persons. The next thing you know, you're spiraling down into a world of negativity. Been there, done that. I imagine we all have. So the more you can practice forgiveness and let those grudges go, the farther you can walk down the path of PMA without getting sidetracked on your way to your goals. Your relationships will also become happier and your day-to-day dealings with others more pleasant. You have no control over the way people treat you. That's on them. What's in your control, though, is how you respond to it. Don't hang around with negative, unproductive people. They say you can tell someone's nature by the company he or she keeps. Well, right the fuck on to whoever came up with that one, because I couldn't agree more. You want to be negative, complain, bitch, moan, get wasted, play the victim, take things personally, quit everything you do, and never get anywhere in life? Then hang out with those who do that shit for a living. Their mental diseases are contagious, though. So look out. As they say, fools go undetected until they open their mouths. When what comes out is useless verbal diarrhea, especially when that's coupled with a culture of wasting their days and nights getting high, run for the hills, my friends, and never look back. It's no coincidence that people who get fucked up all the time are constantly at the top of this list. I know people with huge amounts of talent, but who started the negative snowball rolling by getting high, creating an avalanche of negative shit that consumed their lives. If you want PMA, you have to hang out with those who practice PMA every day and avoid the others. That's what I do. I surround myself with happy, successful, driven people. Those who exude PMA. I learn from their experiences. I've been down that other road for far too long. I'm over it. I suggest you get over it too. These above-mentioned unproductive people are experts at pointing out faults in others. This is because they have too much time to waste. Instead of using their time to look at their own lives, they put everyone else's life under the microscope. They try to mask their insecurities and failures by trash-talking others. Don't get involved in that drama. Use all of your time productively. Make shit happen in your life. Think about all the time that can be spent doing unproductive, time-wasting things that will get you nowhere, then flip the script and use that same time for your projects. Minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, do the work. If you can do this, I guarantee things will happen for you. You'll become truly productive, someone who accomplishes what you've set out to do, someone who understands fully that time is your most important commodity and that you can never buy back even a second of it for all the money in the world. When you approach every day with that mood, who has time to hang around with negative people? There's a reason people get together in one group or another, join one slice of society over another. It's to help each other stay fired up, to inspire, to find strength in numbers. That's true even on the spiritual journey. In Sanskrit, that's called Sangha. It refers to association with those who choose to operate from a higher vibration, who are devoted to the spiritual path. That's my go-to crowd as of late. The ones who walk the walk and who operate from the most positive places and get their shit done under any and all circumstances. I need these types around me. I'm honored and privileged to be able to learn from them. I hope some of their good qualities will rub off on me. And the others, the members of the crumb bum society, I avoid them like the fucking plague. You should too. Dating or marrying the wrong person. I know what you're thinking. Relationship advice from John Joseph? But hear me out on this, because I've been around the block a few times and I've learned some valuable lessons in the relationship department. Dating, or worse, marrying someone who is completely wrong for you, will put you in a world of shit. Relationships take a hell of a lot of work, and you're going to spend all your me time with that person. So if you want to be happy in life, why the hell waste time with someone who's completely wrong for you? I've made this mistake more than a few times. I got complacent and comfortable and saw no reason to break off the relationship, even though my significant other caused me strife every single damn day. There would be times I wouldn't even want to go home because I had to deal with her. This was when I hurt my back, couldn't exercise, was overeating, and blowing my body into obesity. I was the most miserable person. I was not only getting high from the painkillers they were giving me for my back, but I was getting high to numb the emotional pain along with the physical. I know many of you can relate. You've been there or are there now. We constantly pick a person who's wrong for us because we're afraid to be alone. We go from relationship to relationship, problem scenario to problem scenario, sometimes wasting years. You're doing no one any good by living a lie, so stop trying to push that boulder up a hill. If you waste time with someone who's wrong for you, then you are not leaving an opening for the right person who may be out there. Besides, if you find that the work of being with someone is in constant conflict with the work you must do on yourself, it's a clear sign that the relationship is unhealthy. Relationships must never take precedence over your self-work. Do you hear me? You come first. That's not selfish. I'm giving you real talk. Being in a relationship will never make the man or woman. No one else can fix us. We have to do the work on ourselves and make things happen. If you meet the right person, he or she will be the cherry on top. And who is that right person? It's someone with whom you can work to grow as people. My woman has told me many times that she's glad she never met the old John Joseph. I know what she means. I was a fuck-up. It took me years of hard work to make myself someone I'd want to date. I had to do a lot of soul-searching, and I spent years alone while I did that. I was alone, but somehow I wasn't lonely. Do you know why? Well, first off, I had my enemy mind to keep me company. And second, once I beat that fucker into submission, I had time to think about who I was. If you don't search for meaning in your life, you'll always feel lonely whether you're alone or in a relationship. Without a strong sense of self, there will always be a void no relationship can fill. So make yourself whole, and then, in time, someone who has a parallel path will manifest. We attract the energy we put out into the world. Remember that. And if you're in a bad spot in your relationship or marriage, try your best to work it out. But if there's no workable solution, even after counseling, and you guys are at each other's throats, and you've done everything possible to honor the commitment you made to the relationship, especially if there are kids involved, step off. Just make sure you remain civilized. I know in some cases the anger left over from the relationship can make that hard. But for the sake of your children and for your own sake, And even for the sake of your significant other, you have to rise to the challenge of it. Don't hold grudges. There are exceptions, of course, to keeping any ongoing relationship civil, such as in cases of domestic violence. If you're suffering from that, do what my mother did to my asshole father and tell that guy to go to hell. If he doesn't listen, get help. Oh, and divorce is not a free pass for you to become a deadbeat dad or absentee mom. Your kids don't deserve to be punished just because you guys couldn't get along. I have friends who got divorced and both parents remained in their kids' lives. Kids need two parents, their mom and their dad. So remember that and do whatever it takes to keep the PMA between you two. Then, when your kids are grown, they will respect and thank you for taking the high road. Envy is whack, so stop hating. Do not overrate what you have received, nor envy others. He who envies others does not obtain peace of mind. Buddha. It was definitely an envious person who wrote the book on how to make enemies and piss people off. Envy is the real root of all evil. Some of the most miserable people I know are also the most envious. They spread their poison when anyone around them accomplishes anything. Some even go out of their way to do so. Cut those people out of your life like a cancer. Be mindful of any envy in your mind and heart and be happy for others' successes. Revel in the happiness of others. You know that more than likely those people found success by sacrificing and working their asses off. Knowing that about them inspires me. It shows me that if I push, I can get there too. So why should I be a hater? Haters have some serious self-doubt issues going on. I heard a lot of people say that you know who your friends are when you're down and out. Bullshit. Let's see who has your back and is happy for you when you're kicking ass and great things are happening for you. Those are your true friends. I've seen that when good things started to happen for many of my friends, their so-called friend camps shrunk. That's because they were surrounded by envious, snake-like people. All it took for envy to manifest in those quote-unquote friends was for their friends to become successful. It's like giving milk to a serpent. The milk of happiness others have achieved only increases the venom of those who envy them. In misery and failure, you'll have legions of friends who console or compare, but climb out of that pit and watch what happens. Success is a catalyst for your friends to polarize. You'll see quickly who in your friend camp is full of shit. You'll quickly find the snakes, those who were laying in wait to bite when the first good thing came your way. So do this exercise. Even if you don't particularly like someone, try to be happy when something good happens to him or her. Then sit back and watch what happens to your attitude, how it changes for the better. And with that infusion of PMA, you in turn will be able to accomplish more. I even wish success for those who wish me ill. Ahimsa, never wish harm on others. That's not my job. Everyone gets the karma they deserve. So if some shit is coming to them, it will come regardless of what I think. I don't need to pollute my consciousness by wishing ill will or failure on others. I know one miserable fucker who tried to cast spells on people as if he was some powerful yogi or magician. Guess what? All the bad shit he wished on others backfired and his own life went to complete shit. On the surface, this issue of envy may seem like a small thing. But once you peel back its layers and realize how deep it goes in yourself, you realize it's the one negative emotion at the core of almost all human suffering, especially for those digging mental ditches for themselves. If we can eradicate our envy, we'll be much happier people on the whole. Our relationships with others will improve. Our country and planet will also improve. The more people who get clear of their tendency to envy, the better the planet will be. Doing this, of course, takes a universal consciousness where we can see all other creatures as essentially no different from ourselves. But how can we see them like that when our envy makes us covet their possessions or accomplishments? That's really why we put down the achievements and characters of others. We think their achievements and qualities should be ours. Paramahamsa Yogananda quoted his guru on this point in his amazing book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, and I quote, "Some people try to be tall by cutting off the heads of others," end quote. You got it? Hating doesn't make you tall. It makes you a very small person. So be happy for others, and you will always remain happy. Flip the energy wasted on envy to PMA and get your shit done. Nobody likes the petty mentality of an envious hater, so don't be one. Instead, be a well-wisher to all. The 4 disagreements. I want to mention again a book that's helped me tremendously to stay on course with all my passion projects. It's called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, a Toltec shaman spiritualist. After reading his book, I realized I was guilty of breaking every single one of the 4 agreements. Now that I was aware of it, I couldn't stay stuck on stupid. See, that's what knowledge does. It makes us realize there's a problem, then offers a formula so you can solve it. It's science, really. You apply a formula and get a result. To the degree that you apply the formula properly and without alteration, to that degree you get the desired result. The 4 agreements are: 1. Be impeccable with your word. 2. Always do your best. 3. Don't make assumptions. And 4. Don't take things personally. Simple, right? Yeah, but put those into practice every day. I found I didn't express how I felt about situations to people who'd wronged me. So I'd bullshit and tell them, it's all good. Not anymore. Now I get shit off my chest, as politely as possible, of course. Once I read the 4 agreements, I discovered that for most of my life, I'd been practicing the 4 disagreements. I had a shitload of work to do, I realized, because many of my problems stemmed from the fact that I had things ass backwards. I'm willing to bet some of you do too. If you find you're doing the polar opposite of the 4 agreements, reevaluate and fix things. Let's have a look at the agreements in a little more detail. 1. Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using words to speak against yourself or to gossip. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. You have to constantly be on guard with this one. Trash talking can easily sneak up on you and ruin your day. In the Vedas, it says that of the 5 senses, the tongue is the most difficult and voracious to control. The tongue wants to taste things, yes, but even more, it wants to wag. It's so true. Monitor your words carefully throughout your day. When you find yourself gossiping or smack talking, bring the tongue back under the control of the intelligence. My intelligence has told me that from experience, if I talk smack, I'll feel like crap later. So instead, I try to engage in dialogues of a positive nature. Or I just don't talk. I quiet the mind and spend some time on reflection. Social media is filled with too much talking. Some people seem to think what they have to say online doesn't count. They're sadly mistaken. I know in the past, when I've engaged in negative, destructive words, it brought nothing good to me. Now I concentrate on speaking encouraging words, spreading PMA, and trying to help others. I let all the other toxic words go, and that's made me feel much more positive and productive. Being impeccable with your word also means you're doing what you say you'll do. If I give my word to someone else, or even make a pact with myself, I have to follow through. Only an act of nature can stop me. I've learned that every time you break a promise, it chips away at your integrity. Remember, little flakings lead to bigger ones. Don't minimize the importance of your integrity, your word. Being impeccable with your word, especially in terms of speaking the truth, will change your life for the better. 2, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. Just this one agreement can completely transform your life. I can't even tell you the number of times I've created false scenarios in my head and run with them, landing in a world of shit. I've let myself think I knew what some other person was thinking or planning, that he or she was plotting against me, only to find out I was way off. Keep the channels of communication open. Don't let things fester. Deal with things that are bothering you straight on. You know what they say. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. This one agreement can solve so many of the world's problems. Always remember that each of us comes from a totally different set of experiences. Misunderstandings, or even just different perspectives, are inevitable. So keep the lines of communication open. 9 times out of 10, the people who have negative conflict and drama in their lives have broken this agreement. 3, always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you're healthy than when you're sick. Under any circumstances, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. When you always put your best foot forward, even if there's a bad result, you'll know in your heart of hearts that you gave it your all. You'll also know that you'll aim to do better the next time. People who slack off never have peace of mind. They're always agitated and pointing out others' faults. Let me draw a comparison between 2 people I know in this regard. The first person has degrees in engineering, business, and finance. He even has a license to buy and sell real estate and another to buy and sell stocks. A resume of the careers he had in the last decade will fill 2 pages. Every 6 months he creates a new life master plan, and then he's off to something else. He has genius IQ, but he never rises to the top of anything he does, never finishes projects. He has so much God-given ability and smarts, yet he always seems to fail. Why do you think that is? I'm going to tell you. Because he's a slacker. He's taken all that ability for granted. This person is always looking for a shortcut, a hustle his way out, so he doesn't have to do the work. He sleeps until noon and goes out at night to network over drinks. He falls into this cycle of changing careers and again hustling his way through repeatedly. And he has become a very fucking unhappy person. Now there's another person I know who doesn't have such a high IQ, who has no diplomas hanging on his wall. But every time this person does anything, he gives it his all. He's 100% invested in what he does. Never slacks. He's up before dawn every day, tackling a new adventure. He finishes projects. Even if there's a discrepancy in his work, he willingly goes back to fix it. He doesn't drink, smoke, or get high because he wants his mind to be clear and focus on his goals. He makes sacrifices. This person has been happy every time I've seen him. He never has a bad word to say about anyone, but rather is always encouraging, listening to other people, and sincerely wanting to know what they're up to and whether he can help them in any way. So let me ask you, who do you think will go further in life? You already know the answer to that because you know these people. We all do. After reading Don Miguel's book, I went to see him speak in New York City. Actually, someone gave me tickets as a birthday present. It was one of the best gifts I've ever received, and being there was life-changing for me. Don Miguel elaborated on this agreement during his talk, and it was right at a time when I needed to hear it, because things weren't going my way with my writing career, fitness, headspace, or relationships. I realized after listening to him that the reason for my slowness was that I wasn't all in. I was half-stepping, always holding back from being completely invested in what I was doing. As soon as I changed my mentality, the light came on. Things happened. I finished one book, then another. I wrote scripts, got an agent, got in shape, have since done multiple Ironman triathlons, and gotten the right girl. Now sure, none of that happened overnight, but he inspired me to keep trying and remain invested, to always do my best. You have to make sure that whatever you do in life, no matter how seemingly mundane that thing may seem on the surface, you have to do it with heart and soul. Be all in, completely invested. And that attitude will carry over into every aspect of your life. 4, don't take things personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own dreams. When you're immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. This last agreement can save you so much aggravation and grief. It's also probably the most difficult to practice. That's because when people do grimy shit to us or speak bad about us, we want to lash out at them, sometimes physically, but often with our words, breaking the first agreement. Don't. Instead, understand that a poisonous, toxic person living in his or her own hell will never speak kind words or perform kind acts towards you or anyone. Matter of fact, I'll bet the farm that they have beef and drama with dozens more people besides you. And sometimes the people lashing out don't live in hell all the time. These people might be our friends or significant others, and they may be lashing out in a moment of pain. It might even have been triggered by something we said. Still, their lashing out feels like a betrayal, especially because your relationship with them is so good. Still, you should understand that it has nothing to do with you. It comes from their own pain. Hands down, this is very hard to apply, but it's also the most rewarding. Ever since I began to see painful words or deeds in this way, I've been more able to let things go, and that made me happier. I walked with PMA. One very advanced friend of mine told me to say a prayer for the people who constantly talk trash or try to bring me harm. Truth is, they need prayers. Stay bulletproof, poison-proof. Actually, to see that trash talking comes from others' pain is a compassionate perspective. It only becomes your truth, though, if you accept it and act accordingly. In closing here, I'd like to add a 5th agreement for the readers of my book. Agree to get the 4 agreements. Read it, apply it. Following those agreements is the only way things meant to bring about PMA and change for the better will work. Remember, it's not about how far we may have come, but how far we have to go. The ability to grow, the numbers of experiences, and the amount of knowledge are unlimited. So is your divine human potential. Keep learning and do everything in your power to become a seeker of the truth.